All right, you and I are about to watch the ultimate mage get a second chance at life. He went out in a blaze of glory using a legendary 15-rank spell to crush a high demon. But get this, he still died because his energy reserves were basically zero. 50 years later, he wakes up as Kusanagi Minato and realizes modern humans are total weaklings. So the literal creator of magic now has to go back to school. Well, at least there are cute girls around. The original body owner actually got isekai'd by a speeding truck. Our protagonist just took over, and his recovery totally baffled the doctors. They thought it was a miracle, but no, he just knows actual holy magic. He died in 1970 and woke up in 2022. Peace, thin TVs, and K-pop trends everywhere. Once he gets out of the hospital, he heads home. His parents were taken out by a truck too, so he lives off an inheritance. Since reincarnation isn't normal, he wonders if God interfered. Trust me, it was definitely Truck-kun. Now let's see how he handles life as an academy student. A guy named Tadano keeps calling him, but he just ignores it while watching a classic bully scene. The next day at Kamui Academy, some kid tries casting a spell. It looks like a flickering lighter. This is honestly just embarrassing for the world's most powerful mage. These students are trash. Between their magic and the dancing trends, he is losing all hope. Back in the day, beginners were 10 times better. Global peace really made everyone soft. Inside the classroom, he feels surprisingly relaxed and wonders about having friends. Suddenly, that redhead bully storms in screaming about why Minato ignored his phone calls. Our hero just asks who he is, which makes the guy snap. He tries to kick Minato, fails miserably, and then resorts to calling him absolute trash. He is trying for psychological damage. Minato finally realizes this was the guy calling him and assumes they are buddies. Tadano demands cash since they are friends, but Minato just says they will get along fine. The bully is fuming because he knows Minato has that inheritance money stashed away. He finally realizes the original body was a victim. Then a girl walks into the room. You and I can see why she is the school goddess. Blue hair, blue eyes, and wow. Tadano turns bright red and gets shy like a total puppy. He storms out and Minato notices a board about the great global catastrophe. The teacher wants the class to talk about it. The man explains, it was humanity's darkest hour where the founder, Ichukami Minato, stood alone against the monsters. He killed a high demon but lost his life doing it. The world has been quiet since. The teacher asks who saved the world, and the blue-haired girl raises her hand with a smile. Misa says he was the first mage ever, which is why this magic academy was even built. She is totally fangirling. The teacher adds that the academy exists to find talent just like him. On the inside, our hero is dying of pure embarrassment. He never would have come if he knew this. He realizes that with peace, mages have become incredibly weak and pathetic. He watches the birds outside, feeling glad that his sacrifice brought peace. The teacher announces that tomorrow there will be a magic power test. Tadano mocks his classmates, saying their powers will be a joke. Ichigami figures the bully is just bored and not worth his time. He heads for the door, but the bully keeps shouting insults at him. Finally, he looks back and calls the redhead a loser. The bully snaps and charges up an actual spell right in the classroom. Everyone is terrified. Stick with me, because next time we see if he survives the blast. Alright, you and I are starting this off with a fireball to the face that our main character barely even notices. Right, then Mizuha rushes in to try and shield him, but he stays perfectly still as the fire magic hits. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the entire classroom, sending smoke everywhere. Students shield their eyes from the blinding flash. Mizuha is completely stunned all this destruction just because of a petty little argument. Looking at the trashed room, she sighs that none of this was worth it. Tadano is just annoyed, claiming he only fired because he was being pushed around. Once the smoke clears, the protagonist is standing there without a scratch. Every student in the room is absolutely losing it. Minato just scratches his head, looking more confused than anyone else about the whole situation. Tadano looks like his world just ended when he sees his magic did 0 damage. Our guy realizes a level 1 attack is basically child's play and he didn't even need to use mana. Tuino starts panicking when he hears the main character mention he's only being nice since he's still a kid. With a cold glare, Ichukuma says it's time for bullies like him to be set straight. Now watch closely, because an insane aura suddenly explodes from the main character. A flash of light fills every corner of the room. Watching blue particles float in the air, the students realize they can't even move. Mikai tries to figure out what kind of magic this is. Meanwhile, the redhead is shaking like a leaf as that terrifying aura walks straight toward him. Realizing an attack is coming, the bully just freezes. Luckily, the teacher suddenly walks in. He wants to know what all that noise was about and who was using magic inside the school building. The main character just sighs, flashing a quick smile. He claims nothing happened and suggests maybe someone was practicing their magic outside. The teacher says nobody was in the courtyard, looking for more clues. Our guy says maybe it was some outsider mages playing around. Suspicious, the teacher asks about the smoke. Ichukami points to the window, saying the wind must have blown it in from the street. The man figures a student wouldn't lie to him. He says he'll look into it and lets the class go early. The protagonist waves goodbye, hoping to stay under the radar. He realizes he needs to be way more careful if he wants to keep his quiet life. Mizuha is still frozen in shock, her brain still trying to process what she just witnessed. Tadano is still cursing him out. Meanwhile, Minato realizes the power level of these students is super low and wonders if modern mages can even handle real monsters. Walking down the hall, he decides to check out the city for signs of those beasts. When night falls, the ruins of Shibuya look pretty grim. Under the bright full moon, our hero starts his investigation by hopping onto the roof of a building. Looking down, he sees how much the city has changed. Using a magic circle for speed, he zooms through the dark sky. He doesn't feel anything supernatural yet and wonders why the police are still patrolling these ruins. It seems like a lot of work for a ghost town. Suddenly he senses a monster closing in. Crouched on the rooftop, he also feels another human energy signature right below him. He doesn't hesitate for a second, using his magic to dive headfirst toward the danger. Check this out. He finds a group of creatures surrounding a woman who's absolutely terrified it's Rosnando. The monsters bare their fangs ready to strike, but to their total surprise, the main character appears out of nowhere. Without waiting, the beast lunges straight at the boy. Suddenly, sharp spikes burst from the ground and impale the monsters, finishing them instantly. Minato looks back and sees the woman is in tears. Noticing the badge on her uniform, he realizes she's a cop. He tells her she needs to be way more careful out here. Embarrassed, she thanks him and apologizes. The confused officer watches him vanish into thin air, wondering who that mysterious mage was. What really bugs her is that she didn't see him use a single spell to do it. Our guy thinks hiding his face was a smart move. After reincarnating, the last thing he wants is to draw a bunch of unwanted attention. He realizes the police have become so weak they can't even take down a few low-tier monsters. Worried, Minato realizes the mages of this era have lost most of their power. Looking at the sky, he feels pretty good. It seems like even in this time, people still need him. Scanning the city with magic circles, he decides his first job is to clear every monster out of the area. Later at school, the teacher points to a strange device and says it's time for a magic power assessment. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens when he measures his energy and picks his element. Don't go anywhere. Shocked. Minato couldn't believe a machine was needed for the basics. Since feeling your own power is the foundation stick with me, this gets crazy. Mizuho walked up and asked him to step aside for a chat, leaving the other students stunned to see her talking to him. The blue-haired girl introduced herself as the second daughter from a high-ranking family of powerful mages. Confused, the boy asked what that meant, and Mizuho was stunned to realize he didn't know her family led the 4 great houses of elemental mages. He pictured someone in fancy clothes. He figured that noble concept didn't even exist in his original era, and he didn't even know her last name. Seeing her blue aura, he figured her power was way too low for such a famous family, while she wondered why he wasn't impressed at all. Gritting his teeth, Tadano got annoyed seeing an outcast talking to Mizuho like that. Ichami closed her eyes and placed a hand on her chest, asking what business a noble lady had with him. Mizuho tried to stay composed, thinking she had to figure out how he survived a magic attack without a single scratch. Losing her patience, she said she wanted to discuss the incident that happened the day before, but the teacher cut her off, ordering them to start the assessment, which actually made our protagonist smile. Glad he's off the hook, but pay attention here, Mizuho is expecting something big from his power level. Gathering energy in his hand, Tadano declared it was his turn, then touched the massive crystal as a bright flame appeared inside. The system announced his level was 1000 with a fire element, and the bully cheered once he realized he'd improved. Thoughtful. He realized the number scale was still the same as 50 years ago, just as Mizuho stepped forward, wrapped in a bright blue aura. She placed her hand on the crystal, and drops of water immediately started forming deep inside of it. The system then announced her power level was 2000 with a water element, leaving the students and the teacher in total shock. Tadano confidently noted those were the highest scores of the year, meaning they would likely become top-tier mages. Just then, the blue-haired girl showed up looking very proud of her impressive result. Everyone is celebrating, but you saw that too, right? Our hero is stunned that these tiny scores are now considered the absolute best in the whole world. Smiling, Mizuho thought that was the true power of her noble bloodline. Turning his face away, Ichikami found it hard to even look at her smug expression. Hearing his name, the lead got worried as he walked to the device while students whispered that he was always one of the absolute worst. The redhead added that the kid did well on written tests but always failed when it came to actual practice. Snickering, Tadano thought his classmate was about to embarrass himself right in front of Mizuha. Curious, the girl wanted to see his magic level quickly. Certain there was no way he could actually beat her score. Minato stopped at the machine, wondering if he should draw attention to himself again, or just find a way to cheat. He could feel his classmate staring as he took a deep breath and finally placed his hand on the crystal. In that same instant, a multicolored energy spread all around. With a smirk, he decided to release his power to see if the device could even measure the magic of a progenitor. A ridiculous amount of energy started building up before a pillar of light shot up and lit up the entire castle. The students felt the insane pressure while Mizuha watched in shock, her eyes wide as the numbers changed way too fast. Then a crack appeared in the crystal, and a massive pillar of light blasted from the castle into the sky. The device pumped out a crazy amount of energy until a deafening explosion suddenly echoed through the entire room. In shock, the students realized the crystal had shattered. Standing in the dust, he was surprised the device broke, even though he hadn't even used all of his strength. Looking at his classmates on the ground, he wondered if anyone even felt his power as the teacher checked to see if everyone was okay. When he reached our hero, the man asked if he was hurt, but he just said he got lucky. Even though he was at the center of the blast, looking at the broken remains of the device, the teacher said he had never seen anything like it and assumed the device must have been defective. The man wondered what they would do now since they still hadn't found the boy's actual level or element. He's still clueless, but you and I know this combat class is about to get wild. Stick around for the next part. Alright, stick with me as we check out this team's power level. While Tadano dries off, the teacher asks about taking another teammate, but the bullies look at the boy with total contempt. Even so, a fake smile appears on the redhead's face. Getting up, Tadano says they would be happy to take him. The teacher replies that he always knew he could count on him. Sarcastic redhead walks up to Minato while the old city of Shibuya is still sitting in complete ruins. Dangerous monsters still occupy the areas destroyed by the Great Catastrophe. Now abandoned patrols of police and mages wipe out those creatures, and students are here to help them. Apparently, most of the monsters have already been eliminated, so there is not much to worry about. Our main character is totally shocked to learn that the Academy holds real battles, wondering in silence if these students could even defeat a group together. He scans around. He realizes it is the same place from last night where he cleared everything, yet he can still feel magic traces. Pay attention here, because even without a new disaster, these monsters keep appearing. A girl invites a classmate to compete, leaving Minato surprised by their recklessness during a real combat class. Mizuha turns and looks at him suspiciously. Then the teacher suggests starting the practical class, asking everyone for teamwork. Just then, someone calls the main character. Meanwhile, the protagonist leans against a ruined house wall with a smug and malicious grin. Tadano says no one will interrupt them, saying there is no mercy this time. Ichami just centers himself. Calmly, Minato says that if something is bothering him, he could just ignore it. Irritated, the redhead yells about who gave him the floor, asking why Mizuha pays attention to someone so weak. Confused, the main character asks if the bully actually likes her, making the redhead completely lose control with rage. But Minato ignores him, so the redhead activates his magic, saying the protagonist just signed his death sentence. But Ichami just asks him to stop. Not listening, Tadano says it is way too late for apologies. Then the main character tells him to turn around, but the bully says that trick will not work on him. You saw that right. A massive monster just appeared in dark energy. Their eyes go wide at that oppressive aura, wondering what on earth is actually going on. One of the goons asks how a demon guard showed up in Shibuya. Terrified, they wonder if Tadano can handle that beast, but he fires a burst and says it is taken care of. While his friends cheer, the smoke clears and reveals the monster has not taken any damage at all. Seeing that, the redhead forces a tense smile while standing there. The protagonist knows they cannot win against a first-class demon guard. The creature steps forward and Tadano just collapses. The monster's shadow covers them. The bully is desperate, thinking they will die. Sharp claws lunge at them, but suddenly something makes him stop. It is Minato, standing right in front of him, looking totally calm. The monster remembers a wave of energy ripping through his body and blood spraying everywhere. Soon the creature is thrown backward, rolling away from them. Then the protagonist says it is obvious that even a demon guard understands who the strongest one is. It sees an intense aura under the main character and starts trembling with fear. Magic circles appear above its head. But then the protagonist activates his magic. Shocked, Tadano says Minato will not win. Using 2 ranks, the monster hurls a huge rock technique at them. But the protagonist just smiles and a first rank fire arrow flies toward the stone. An explosion wipes out the creature. The students cover their faces while Minato just stares coldly. When they open their eyes, they are stunned. Tadano cannot believe the main character beat a demon guard. Looking at the purple crystal, Minato concludes that demon guards being here is not normal. After all, those creatures were supposed to be extinct for 50 years. So you and I are left wondering, is this a sign of another disaster coming sooner than we thought? Let's dive into the journey of a hero who's determined to save everyone no matter what kind of disaster hits next. Our main character decides to save everyone while his jealous bully fumed over that demon guard kill. Meanwhile, Mizwa was lurking in the shadows, catching every single move he made without flinching. She strikes first with water disc, slicing through the beast's legs like a pro. Her team wasn't even shocked. They totally expected this kind of genius from her. She's actually annoyed. Like, how could anyone be impressed by such basic magic? Still, she acts all high and mighty, pretending she's only there to protect the locals. Then the bullies show up near the hero with Tadano, desperately craving attention. Noticing the bullies moving around the corner, Mizua tells her friends she's got to step away for a bit. She knows they're harassing her classmate and decides she's definitely not letting that slide. Now pay attention, because Mizua is about to get a massive reality check from a demon. She realizes she's totally outmatched. Her hands literally won't stop shaking. But she's got noble pride, so she steps up anyway and yells for everyone to run. Suddenly, a massive blast of fire roars past her and the whole place just explodes. She's stunned to find out the protagonist was the one who cast that insane spell. He used to be so timid, but now he's standing there with more confidence than anyone. Look at that serious face. He didn't even chant, he just deleted a first-class demon guard without trying. In this world, you can tell a monster's rank just by counting the magical crystals on its body. It is a strict hierarchy. Basic magic beasts only have 1 crystal on their foreheads. Guardians are marked by a crystal on their chest, while high-level demons carry 1 there, plus 2 more on their shoulders as well. Then you have supreme demons who rock 4 crystals. 5 stones is top tier, but the demon god reigns supreme with 6. This is essentially standard knowledge for any modern magic user. Mizua knows it takes at least a level 3 mage to handle a guard. But then she sees Minato approaching and he teases her about her weird stalking hobby. She's shocked he noticed, but he says any decent mage would have felt her. They share a long, silent look before Minato asks if she can even sense magical power, leaving her in total shock as he walks away into the distance. Mizua screams for him to stop and explain himself. Next, we find Minato on a rooftop, glad he finally ditched her. He scans the area and senses 5 different sources of dark energy nearby. There aren't many guards, but the normal beasts would definitely overwhelm the other students. He decides to clear the threat near the station. You and I both saw this coming. He launches a massive magical volley that stuns everyone. The students are totally surrounded and realize they're in way over their heads. One girl is almost a goner, but the monster is vaporized before it can touch her. As his shots hit their marks, Minato figures the situation is finally stabilized. Monsters are dropping like flies, finally giving the students a chance to breathe. Looking at the carnage, our hero realizes he might have gone a bit overboard. He admits he should have held back since this was only supposed to be a simple lesson. Then he flies above the city to make sure nobody is watching him. He lands in a quiet alley thinking he really doesn't need to hide anymore. Besides, drawing too much attention is just a huge recipe for trouble. Later, the teacher is shocked to find a massive pile of dead beasts. He notices they were all killed instantly by someone with unbelievable skill and power. Trust me, look at what happens next. You and I are about to see a magic trick that definitely breaks all the rules. Without that mysterious backup, those students would have been in serious danger since they were not ready to face that many enemies. The students were totally stunned, wondering why the beasts were not cleared out earlier if it was that easy. Feeling embarrassed, the teacher apologized with a deep bow. He admitted the police should have handled the situation, and that the academy had failed, saying he deeply regretted putting the students in such a dangerous spot. Everyone was clearly upset, and one emotional girl finally asked who actually saved their lives. The teacher had no idea, but she really wanted to thank their secret protector. The man figured it was unlikely to be anyone from the police or official mage groups. He guessed it was an outlaw mage, and our main character was happy to hear he was actually appreciated. Back in the wrecked city, the students were excitedly talking about that amazing magic they had just witnessed. Minato saw that everyone was safe, but Tadano was standing there absolutely fuming with rage. Our hero felt relieved that even the school bully and his goons had made it out okay. Now pay attention to Mizua. She remembered him beating a first-class demon guard and started wondering if that absurd amount of magic we just saw actually came from him as well. She recalled staring up at the sky in total disbelief. She decided no one could use fire and non-elemental magic at the same time because it is impossible for a student to master both types. So she convinced herself that the crazy light show must have come from someone else entirely. Still, she could not stop wondering who he really was to defeat a demon guard. Suddenly, a blonde boy suggested the laser beams were also Minato's work, but Tadano snapped back. He called it impossible, but the other student pointed out the outcast's recent victory over a demon guard. The bully told his classmate to shut up before he finished him off for good. That redhead insisted a quiet kid could not be that strong and accused the main character of hiding something big. His own goons were weirded out by his massive overreaction. Blinded by rage, Tadano called him a cheater and promised to expose his secrets. Then later that day, he had a group of students surround our hero in the city. The redhead showed up out of nowhere, blocking every exit, and started talking total trash. Staying calm, our protagonist suggested they should be training magic instead of wasting time here. That answer just ticked the bully off even more as he kept shouting about lies. Since arguing was useless, our main character tried to leave, but Tadano blocked his path and sneered at him. Stick with me here, the main character said he had no reason to run. So the redhead lunged at him in a total rage while our hero just stood there without using a single spell. The whole group attacked too. Our hero did not even try to react, but a magic barrier activated on its own to protect him from the assault, leaving the attackers thinking they had already finished him off before the fight even started. Mizua stepped in and called it bullying. She questioned their honor and told them to leave. After scolding the bully, she grabbed the main character by the hand and led him away. Tadano stood there stunned as they walked off, but he still tried to blame the main character for everything. In a moment of pure desperation, the redhead decided to use magic illegally outside of school. He was determined to get rid of Minato, leaving the girl panicking at his reaction. The bullies recklessly attacked the hero, who just stared them down while his friend rushed forward to protect him. Flames swallowed them both in an instant, but to everyone's total surprise, the girl was not hurt at all. The redhead laughed, thinking he had managed to take out the main character since no one could withstand that much firepower. But as the smoke cleared, our hero calmly explained that he ignored the attack because it was childish. He said things had gone too far, and that only discipline could fix his behavior, finally declaring it was time for punishment. Tadano could not believe his eyes when he realized the guy was still alive. Minato pointed out that the redhead had put the girl's life in serious danger too. Furious, the redhead screamed that it was their own fault for looking down on him. And that is where we leave it, with Tadano attacking until the end, while our hero just calmly raises one finger for the win. You and I are about to see this tiny magic circle change everything. The delinquents just laugh, mocking his small spell and asking if he is actually being serious. They shout that this is the end for Minato and fire waves of flame at him, but calmly the main character just activates a magic drain from that tiny circle on his finger. Long vines suddenly burst out and shoot forward at lightning speed. In seconds, the branches wrap around the delinquents, who look confused as their legs go completely numb. Right after that, the circle and vines glow and the boys drop unconscious to the floor. By draining just a tiny bit of magic, the protagonist restrains Tadano, hoping this finally teaches those bullies a lesson. Mizua's eyes go wide, wondering what that magic was and why everyone passed out. When Minato starts to leave, the girl stands up and asks him to wait for a second. She's curious and really wants to know what kind of magic he used. She asks what the spell actually did and if he'd mastered magic before today. Finally, she asks who our protagonist really is deep down. The boy looks away, thinking about how complicated it would be to explain all that stuff, but Minato just replies that she should have asked a different question. It makes her feel awkward, but she still thanks him for saving her while insisting on an answer. When she realizes the boy has already vanished, she gets annoyed, wondering where on earth he went. Night has fallen and the full moon lights up the old city of Shibuya. Minato appears floating inside a magic circle, and once he's steady, he realizes something's very wrong. Stick with me here. The beasts and demon guards he defeated are back again like they've revived. He realizes that even if he acts alone in Shibuya, the threat is spreading through the city beyond police control. Remembering the police officer shaking in front of Tadano's summon reinforces his feeling that the current generation of mages is incredibly weak. That is when he accepts an uncomfortable truth. He cannot defeat all the demons in Japan by himself. He needs to act with urgency and strategy. So the main character decides to clear areas slowly to avoid attention. Minato hears a man casually joking about drinking too much, not noticing the danger creeping up right behind him. Before the creature can attack, the protagonist steps in, knocking the monster away and disappearing in a flash. The man, scared and confused, ends up convincing himself it had all just been his wild imagination. Watching from a distance, Minato confirms the civilian didn't notice. Satisfied, he uses his magic to keep going. But at that moment, someone was recording everything on their phone, smiling. The blonde guy thinks he's made the perfect video to go viral. On his screen, the recording preview pops up with an impressed comment. The next day, the students are standing in front of the principal's desk looking worried and irritated. The teacher says he's received reports about magic being used outside school, and if it is true, it cannot be ignored. Among the students, the protagonist and Mizuwa stay calm, and both are asked to explain what really happened. Furious, the redhead immediately points at the main character accusing him and claiming he never used magic. He claims Minato started the fight, leaving our hero shocked that someone could lie so easily to their face. Watching the teacher and the principal waiting for an explanation, the main character realizes he cannot stay silent. Now pay attention, someone suddenly shouts that it is all a lie, leaving everyone in shock. Overcome with anger, Mizuwa shouts that the bully and his friends were the ones intimidating him and used magic first. Curious, the teacher asks if that means Minato had fought using magic as well. The student says it was self-defense and that her friend did nothing wrong, leaving our protagonist totally stunned. Tadano tries to protest, but the girl cuts him off and tells him to be quiet. Furious, Mizuwa says the provocation made zero sense and asks if he's not ashamed to blame an innocent person. The redhead snaps back, saying the main character does not fit the academy and should be expelled. But Mizuwa fires back, saying he's the one who doesn't belong here. The guy brags about having the best results in the course and says no one but him could face her. When he pushes the argument further, Mizuwa just backs off and asks what they are even discussing. Tadano tries to convince her, saying someone like that student could never protect her. Then he asks her out, emotional and desperate. She refuses without hesitating, telling him he can keep dreaming, which leaves the bully speechless and completely shocked. She explains she'd never date someone who chooses to bully others. And that's where we leave it. She shuts him down for being cruel and having terrible timing. Just like that, the redhead hits the floor while our hero just watches him, feeling kind of sorry for the guy. Let us dive in, because the principal just ruled it was the bully's fault and our hero was only acting in self-defense. He says that the academy has no room for selfish magic users and announces that the entire group is being expelled. The bullies start panicking, saying they were just following orders, but the teacher dismisses everyone and offers a sincere apology for the mess. Out in the hallway, Mizuwa vents about how she has not been this angry in years, calling the bullies' behavior totally disgusting. Then our main character asks what really happens to students like them after they get kicked out of school. And she explains that it is game over for them since they can never become professional mages now. Frustrated, she asks Minato how he stayed so quiet during their insults, but when he says he was actually about to fight back, she is left confused. Thinking back on all the times Mizuwa helped him out, he realizes she has always been right there whenever he needed a hand. So without overthinking, our hero compliments her, making her blush like crazy before she tells him to never say stuff like that when they are alone. He starts reflecting on his reincarnation into this body and wonders if the previous boy died from the bullying or just some freak accident. In the end, he accepts that the truth might stay a mystery to him forever, but he believes the people responsible have finally paid the price for what they did to the original boy. Later on, the school board discusses an off-campus magic incident where nobody got hurt. Turns out Mizuwa was involved, but they keep it quiet because her father is a major investor. Now pay attention, because rumors among the students are exploding about our hero's insane hidden strength. Some people are even wondering if he is actually stronger than most of the veteran mages. Because of the rumors, the academy decides to find out what his real power level is. Meanwhile, Ichami wonders how long this peaceful life is actually going to last. The students are all watching some strange video of a hooded mage, but our guy does not really pay it much attention. Mito gets called up by the teacher, making everyone curious. Then the teacher announces a surprise magic reevaluation for anyone who failed the first time around. Mizuwa is super curious, thinking this is finally her chance to see what our main character can really do. Suddenly, the students are shocked when a VIP guest arrives. It is Ruka, and she is here to watch this test from the front row. She makes it clear she wants to judge Ichikami with her own eyes, which just makes Mizuwa even more suspicious of her being there. Terrified of causing another disaster, Mito decides to hold his mana back, as he carefully reaches out to touch the measurement crystal. But those numbers start climbing fast, so he cuts the power off at just the right moment. Once he gets his reading, the teacher walks over to see if he is all right. Then the guy turns to announce the results, declaring the entire evaluation a huge success. You saw that too, right? He reveals our hero has 0 magical elements, leaving everyone in the room in total shock. When they announce his mana level is only 100, the students start whispering about him being the weakest loser in the whole class. Right then, Ryan wonders if this could really be the same guy who supposedly took down a bunch of delinquents all by himself. Feeling disappointed, Ruka says they should just leave. She says she did not find what she was looking for, while 2 students keep making fun of our main character for being so weak. The teacher tries to cheer up Minato, telling him not to worry because raw magic power is not the only thing that matters in life. Still, Mizua finds the result weird, because she has seen his real strength and it is definitely way higher than that. Ichukami acts like he is totally exhausted, but inside he is thrilled he managed to hit the exact low score he planned. As he fixes his uniform, Minato realizes that holding back his true power is actually a lot more tiring than it looks. After walking with Misa for a bit, he asks why she was even at the evaluation. Before she can answer, someone steps out to block their path. It is Ruka and Reijun. Not having much patience for this, Minato just asks the 2 of them who they are. Ruka steps forward and introduces herself and Ryujin, but Minato just asks what they want with a total lack of interest in his voice. The girl walks right up and says she has 0 interest in him, which makes Mizua flinch, in surprise at the cold response. Then Ruka turns to her little sister and asks if she really was too weak to handle those criminals on her own. Since there is no answer, she mentions hearing that Mizuha was saved by a guy with only 100 points. Awkwardly, Mizua confirms it is true. Ruka asks if Mizua is still the inferior sister when it comes to school sports and magic, which makes the poor student even more nervous. She feels this heavy pressure as Ruka tells her she should just leave the academy. Ruka thinks back on how she always dominated her little sister in everything at school, especially in training where she never once lost. Ruka had way more mana and clearly superior magic. After every win, she would just walk away and leave Mizua in the dust. You and I can see Mizuha trying to protest as her sister says she lacks the talent and that one family mage is enough. Alright, you and I are about to see how one huge ego can totally wreck a room. Ruka shows 0 mercy, asking if she finally gets it, while the poor girl grips her skirt in shame. Suddenly, Mito jumps in calling her arrogant. Ruka can't believe what she just heard. He calls her out for being a bully, but she claims family business is none of his concern. Our main character tells the girl that wasn't a talk, it was just a bossy order in disguise. Ruka loses it and calls him a name, but Mito tells her to stop controlling everyone's lives. He says her logic is baseless, though Ruka insists her sister has 0 talent and 0 wins. Suffering in silence, the little sister ends up agreeing. She remembers when she was so confident. Back then, she really felt like she had it all. Now pay attention and watch this part carefully. It's where the whole vibe of the story finally shifts. The girl is stunned as Ruka asks if he actually thinks her sister could ever beat her. Minato stays cool, telling her it might not happen today, but it's coming. Ruka challenges them to a duel in 2 weeks. Mito asks for a 2-on-2 fight. Smug as ever, Ruka asks if he's going to run away after talking all that trash. He plays right along, saying he'll be there and he's more than ready to throw down. Then he asks Mizua for her final answer, leaving the girl visibly shaking. She hesitates, then screams that she's in Mito, is thrilled that the deal is officially done. He demands that if they win, she stops meddling. Ruka just laughs, saying if she wins, her little sister is getting kicked out of the academy for good. She heads out with Ryujin. Later on a sunny rooftop, Minto listens to what the girl has to say. Then she asks him to be her mentor. Minto lets out a massive sigh because he didn't see that coming. He tries to bail, claiming he's the world's weakest mage, with mana barely over 100. But she isn't buying it, saying he's clearly hiding his true strength. You and I can tell she's desperate. She only took the deal because she's convinced he knows a secret way to gain power. Minato looks away. He thinks she's a bit too intense, which explains the duel. Suddenly, she's bowing and practically begging him to take her on as a student. Finally, Ichami sighs and agrees. She's shocked because she really didn't think he'd say yes. He tells her she has to follow every single thing he says without question. Seeing her fiery determination, he realizes there's no way he could have said no to her. He says training starts now, and he's already got a special spot in mind for them. She's a bit shy, but suggests her house instead. Next thing we know, they're there. The place is massive. While stretching, she realizes this is her first time bringing a guy home. She quickly looks away, trying to act like it's totally normal and not a big deal. Minato focuses, says it's time to start, and calls her Uika for the first time. She's confused, but he explains that since everyone has the same last name, using her first name is easier. She looks down, and even when he offers to change it, she insists he keeps calling her that. He just smiles and gets the training session underway. He asks her to define magic power. She says it's inner energy used for casting spells. He listens, and then asks if intent alone can actually boost someone's power. She laughs and says no, because power limits are set at birth and never change. She's pretty proud of herself, but he just tells her that everything she knows is wrong. In tears, she asks how that's even possible. He's shocked by how little modern mages know. He explains that magic actually exists in nature too. Plus intent can totally grow your mana. She's shouting now, saying that can't be true. If it was magic, science would be way more advanced than it is today. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you're going to want to see how he changes her life. All right, let us dive into the moment our main character starts training Mizuha to let her mana flow naturally to get much stronger. Next, he guides her, wrapping them both in mana before releasing a massive burst of energy all at once. As the power spreads, Mizuha suddenly screams, feeling a totally bizarre sensation taking over her entire body. She looks at him in shock, but he simply explains that she is finally experiencing magic perception. With her shoulders trembling, Mizuha asks if this intense feeling is the real power hidden deep inside. Minato confirms it, saying she will now be able to detect and see mana flowing within natural objects. She smiles confidently, claiming she can handle it, but Minato suspects it only worked because of the mana flow, since Mizuha lacks any real natural talent. A week passes, and Mizuha shows up yelling in total frustration because absolutely nothing is working for her. Minato looks completely drained, since after 7 days of intense training, the girl still does not get the basics. Mizuha watches him nervously when he announces he is going to direct her magical flow one more time. Right after that, he places his hand on her back once more. Now watch this part closely. She opens her eyes and finally experiences a massive shock. Mizuha screams with pure joy because she can see everything now, smiling at the mana particles floating everywhere while staring at her hand in absolute disbelief. She turns to Minato to see what his magical power looks like. She is confused by how subtle his power seems, while he awkwardly praises her and thinks about magic usage. He explains perceiving mana is only step 1. She must learn to control it efficiently, focusing on using as little energy as possible to complete each task. He notes that if she burns through her mana, it will recover and even grow stronger over time. Since she can already sense the energy, the main character assumes that controlling it should not be a problem. He asks how this feels compared to traditional magic and if she can handle it, but Mizuha cuts him off, declaring that she trusts him completely. Mito smiles, happy with her resolve, and tells her to get ready for a real practice fight. He tosses his coat aside and tells her to attack, so she leaps away to show her massive progress. She fires water discs at Mato, but he just raises a barrier and blocks her moves with zero effort. Mizuho is stunned by how fast her magic was shut down by his defense. He explains it was a non-elemental barrier and warns that she will never beat Ruka if she cannot break it. Frustrated, she fires up her magic again, complaining about how ridiculous his power level is. As he blocks her, Mito tells her to keep moving because stopping against a mage means an absolute instant defeat. Mizuha creates another magic circle before finally collapsing on the ground, completely worn out from the effort. Now pay attention. He covers her with a blanket and says it is his turn. The main character explains that mastering mana control removes the need for chance, and he demonstrates by casting fire magic the same way Mizuha normally does. He repeats the spell his way, and Mizuha watches, thinking his mana is just dispersing into the air. He confirms it, saying, "Mastery allows you to cast magic without any spells." This revelation leaves the girl totally speechless as she tries to process this new level of power. He suggests shortening her chance first before ditching them entirely once she masters her internal mana control. Mizuha wonders if this will really make her stronger, and he confirms that is exactly how the system works. He says they should start by freaking her out. Minato tells her to act like she is dying, and she really panics, seeing the intense state he is in. He reminds Mizuha this training is a daily requirement. Suddenly we see Harajuku at night with a cloaked figure. The main character realizes monsters are everywhere here and their numbers never seem to actually go down at all. Sensing danger, he turns and spots a massive creature charging toward a defenseless young girl. Without hesitation, he rushes in and beheads the monster with one strike before asking if the girl is okay. Instead of answering, she starts filming Minato with her phone, but he manages to avoid the camera. He leaps into the air, pulling his hood up while feeling quite irritated by the sudden recording. He did not expect her to record him instantly, and decides he will definitely need a mask next time. And that is where we leave it. Mizue is out, and you and I want to see her get stronger. All right, you and I are about to see if a few days of training can actually turn this student into a pro. Still, she needed more. Watching her, our main character realized she was pushing way past her limits. When he suggested quitting, Mizue just grit her teeth standing tall while explaining how she'd always lived in her sister's shadow. She just couldn't win. So she quit many dreams, but she'd never abandon magic now, not after everything Minato taught her. Minato calmly noted she'd lose at this rate, but Misu just begged him to train her even harder. He smiled, agreeing to finally stop holding back. The girl just grinned right back and dropped into a fighting stance. He explained the spell, and Mizo instantly went back to attacking him. By nightfall, he was carrying his exhausted student home. The next day, Minato beamed, praising her first real successful attempt. Mizue collapsed onto the grass, celebrating her win. He gave her more props, making her beam with pride. Finally, the big day of the magic competition arrived. Our hero looked around shocked to see a massive crowd packed into the area. Reporters swarmed them, desperate for a quote about the upcoming duel. Walking with Mizue, he wondered why everyone cared. She explained that family feuds draw crowds, and it likely involved some high-level magic politics. Next, we head to the arena. He thought the scale was ridiculous, but Mizue explained that rare magic duels always turn into these massive fancy events. He gave her a funny look, but then her name was called and she started trembling. Our main character just smiled and told her to go for it. Shocked, she stared, then smiled back. Confident now, Mizue stepped into the ring, thinking about just how amazing Minato really was. Face to face with her sister, Ruka looked annoyed, surprised the little one actually showed up. Mizue frowned at her opponent. Calm as ever, Ruka asked if she honestly thought a win was possible. She crossed her arms, waiting. Mizue snapped back, declaring with total certainty that she was going to win. Ruka just smirked sarcastically. Sensing her power, Mizue tensed up. Stick with me here, even though she's terrified of the power gap, she's refusing to back down. The fight kicked off and both girls moved instantly. Mizue jumped back to cast while Ruka started to chant. Watching from the side, Minato saw Ruka used perfect tactics while Mizue completely forgot her basics. Then both girls leveled their magic circles at one another. Mizue fired a water disc and Ruka countered immediately. The spells collided, starting the clash. Mizue was stunned to realize she'd actually matched her sister's raw power. She didn't expect to hold her own. Irritated, Ruka admitted this was at least better than her previous failures. Mizue got fired up, looking truly happy. Ruka asked what she was happy about, noting it wasn't a compliment, just a comparison. Ruka raised the level and Mizue immediately shaped the same spell. Suddenly, Ruka unleashed a level 2 water blast. High-speed droplets slammed into Mizue, forcing her to put everything she had into her defense. Now I know what you're thinking, but yes, she gets blasted right to our hero's feet while he analyzes her technique. Ruka's power was just superior. Ruka walked to the edge, calling Minato heartless for not helping the poor girl. He just replied there was no need to step in, leaving Ruka confused, as Mizue struggled to stand. Ruka called her an idiot, reminding her she just took a direct level 2 magic hit. Looking up with fire in her eyes, Mizue said she wouldn't lose. She shouted that she could fail at anything but not magic. She refused to quit casting an impossibly fast spell. Ruka met her again with level 2 magic. Their powers clashed in the center, and though Mizue was shaking, she refused to give up. And that's where we leave it. Ruka was declared the winner. Trust me, you're going to love how this teacher sticks up for his student. Watching her tremble, Minato figured this contest was all about how much magic you use and how you coordinate that power. Next, our main character got pretty annoyed when Ruka said Mizue clearly had zero talent. He stood up, actually agreeing with those harsh words. Poor Mizue felt her heart sink when he called her clumsy and said her performance was totally lacking the right essence. But then he grinned, saying she definitely had perseverance. That really shocked her as she sat there right in front of Ruka. He told her that despite the loss, he really liked people with her kind of spirit. With a big smile, he announced it to everyone. Hearing that the poor girl started crying and shaking all over again. Then Minato made it official. Mizue was his student, and he wouldn't let anyone say another bad word about her. That made her cry even harder. An annoyed Ruka snapped that it was a huge honor for someone with only 100 magic power. Minato got serious, saying his student would eventually be the one to defeat her. With total contempt, Ruka told him to stop being so arrogant since he wasn't even worth her time. Now pay attention, because Ryujin is finally stepping up with a massive grin. Ruka told him to end it quickly as she walked away. Meanwhile, our hero was carrying his student in his arms. After sitting her in the stands, he turned back to the arena and told her to watch this fight closely. Mizue was confused, but then she realized the wound on her hand was gone. The pain and bruises had totally vanished. Minato stepped onto the battlefield, determined to hold back so he wouldn't look like a total monster to the crowd. He wasn't using spells, but he knew that without a barrier, one direct hit could be game over. He gave a sneaky little smile, admitting that those conditions were actually a bit worrying for him. Ru taunted him with a confident smirk, saying he wasn't going to hold anything back. Our hero calmly replied that he'd be the one holding back. In the stand, students shouted for Ryujin to take it easy. Then the delinquent got ready to finish this. He sensed his opponent's strength was around 8,000, which is usually a manageable level. With his own level capped at 100, any mistake could be fatal. Suddenly a shout echoed through the arena, and the intense second duel began. Ryujin started casting immediately, clearly having no intention of showing any mercy. He built up power, fast, mockingly, asking if our hero had any actual experience in real fights. The delinquent decided to test him with a single blow, sarcastically asking if the protagonist could even handle that much force. Suddenly, a magic attack hit his head. You saw that right. Minato says it's too late while keeping his hand outstretched like a lethal weapon. The students were stunned. Was it over? Minato was declared the winner. The referee called the match while our hero just stood there in front of his unconscious opponent. Ruka ran over shocked to see Ryujin passed out from a single hit without even a spell chant. She wondered if he cheated, but Minato just walked past her saying it ended fast just like she wanted. Ruka was absolutely furious. Suddenly, Mizuha jumped down from the stand saying that move was incredible. Ruka lifted her head with contempt, admitting he had some worth, but our hero just asked if she was comparing herself to him. An annoyed Ruka snapped back as our protagonist sensed her massive magical energy. She was at 10,000 power, even stronger than Ryujin. Soon the two were face to face for the final battle. The judge announced changes to the second competition. He noted the high expectations for our hero, explaining that this winner decides the round. While Minato gave a faint smile, Ruka looked tense as the final duel was officially announced. Our hero fired a projectile and Ruka reacted instantly, starting her own chant to keep attacking. Minato realized that with his power capped at 100, he had to aim for the head to do any damage. But Ruka shielded her head and successfully withstood the attack. And that's where we leave it. Check out this counterattack that hits our hero dead on. Alright, you and I are diving into a moment that left Ruka completely stunned. Our main character just waved his hand and blew away his opponent's entire attack. In total disbelief, Ruka noticed Minato was completely unharmed and didn't even seem to be using magic to protect himself. The students in the stands were buzzing. Even after that direct hit, he didn't have a single scratch. Mizuha was floored, wondering what kind of secret ability her teacher was hiding. Ruka determined to find the truth threw another spell at the boy, but he didn't even care. Without using any magic, our hero dodged every single blast while keeping a perfectly calm rhythm. Stunned, Ruka just couldn't wrap her head around it. She wondered if magic was even involved. Watching him dodge from afar, Mizuha got really anxious, thinking that magic could only be fought with magic. Even with the massive power gap, she felt the main character was lowering his own level just to avoid any real danger. Ruka was sure that dodging at that speed was impossible. She wondered if he even felt fear. She looked at him and saw he was calmly analyzing every tiny little detail. That is something only someone with unusual courage and magic sensing could do. Then out of nowhere, she started chanting another spell. She decided to use a level 3 technique, the Azra Splash, activating her seal immediately. A powerful, massive stream of water burst out toward him. Now watch this part. The crowd is stunned by the sheer power, shouting that Minato won't survive a direct hit. Then a massive boom echoes. Ruka dropped down exhausted, wiping away sweat and thinking she'd finally won. But suddenly, a surprise attack from the protagonist hit her right in the head. Looking up, she saw Minato standing there, totally fine. He pointed his hand like a gun. Desperate, she screamed, demanding to know how he escaped. He bluntly told her he used a technique to absorb magic, and passed right through her blast. Ruka realized her own attack had left deep marks. The poor girl just froze in shock. Suddenly, she started laughing like crazy, repeating how this could have happened. A few minutes later, she finally calmed down and admitted it was a total defeat. Right after that, the judge announced Kusanagi Minato as the winner. The protagonist turned around and saw his student running straight toward him. You and I saw that smile. He told Mizuha they won, and she just smiled back. Ruka stood up and promised not to interfere anymore, giving him total freedom. This totally surprised Mizuha. Minato didn't say much right away, he just let out a little sigh. He casually mentioned Mizuha's injuries were minor, because Ruka held back, which made Ruka yell in denial. Clearly annoyed, Minato pointed out his student had gotten way stronger in 2 weeks, and asked if it wasn't time to stop being so overprotective. Hearing that, Mizuha clenched her fist tight and promised that she would get even stronger. She wanted her sister to stop worrying. After everything Ruka said, she finally believed in her. The main character watched them make up happy with how things turned out, but suddenly he felt a terrifyingly powerful and overwhelming presence. A strange magic appeared, making everyone realize something was very wrong. A cold drop of sweat ran down Minato's face, from that feeling drawing everyone's attention to the phenomenon in the sky. He realized in his thoughts that a disaster was happening. Meanwhile, in an empty classroom, Tadeno yelled at his friends to clean up fast. A blonde guy holding a book replied that the protagonist's backpack only had normal stuff. Tadeno gritted his teeth and shouted at them. He was convinced Minato was hiding something to use magic at that level. Out of nowhere, the blonde guy stepped back in total shock. Tadeno was confused at first, but then pure horror and fear took over his face entirely. The three of them looked out the big window and saw the sky covered in a threatening red tint. The blue-haired boy backed away, screaming that it couldn't be real. Back in the arena, the protagonist looked up and felt a sinister force spreading. He recognized that powerful magic instantly. While everyone stared at the sky, they knew a disaster was coming. Panic hit the academy. In the middle of the chaos, many wondered if it really was a disaster. The main character watched the sky with dread, wondering why this was happening, and if this place was the cause. He remembered the first disaster started there and wondered if it was really a coincidence. And trust me, we're about to see things get way worse as monsters crawl out of portals. Alright, you and I are diving into a story where a regular school day suddenly turns into a total magical disaster. We soon see it as all coming from our hero's hidden magic, and he manages to shield several students just in time. A glowing green magic seal forms right in front of his face as Minato shouts for everyone to stay calm. The students are absolutely stunned watching Minato. He calmly breaks it down, saying only small monsters appear at first, and they will be totally safe if they just keep their heads and act carefully. The main character orders a full evacuation to the gym, warning them that being a lone wolf right now is a death sentence. Then he points toward the sisters, telling them to take cover too. Mizuha looks at her mentor and asks what he plans to do next. Now pay attention, because Minato decides to head back into the building alone, leaving his teacher shocked and calling it a reckless move. Suddenly Ryujin jumps in and offers to help, figuring that if what the main character said is true, it should be a walk in the park, while the teacher is still freaking out in the background. The man finally lets Ryujin go. The boy teases Minato about having a death wish, but our protagonist just gestures that he couldn't care less about the risk. He walks over to his student, gives a confident smile, and promises to be back. Mizuha just stares, telling him to stay safe. Then, without warning, Ryujin takes off like a rocket, shouting that he is going to lead the way. He is feeling himself, thinking 10 seconds for a 100-meter dash is easy money, wondering if Minato can even keep up. But he looks over and, whoa, Minato is right there with magic seals activated on his feet, casually looking back and telling Ryujin that he is going to take the lead. Ryujin has to admit it. His classmate's speed is actually pretty insane. He kicks it into high gear, shouting that the race isn't over yet, while they hunt down these monsters. Minato looks at the building and senses dozens of magical signatures inside. He realizes there are people without magic trapped inside. He leaps up to the rooftop level, spots an open window, and sees beasts cornering students in the hallway. Without a single second of hesitation, Minato flies right through the opening. Now watch closely as Minato goes full beast mode while the panicked students look on in absolute shock. The main character pushes deeper into the school. Suddenly, a monster lunges at him from his blind spot. Minato doesn't even flinch. He just raises a hand, fires a seal from his back, and deletes the creature without a second thought. A few minutes later, Ryujin catches up, panting and asking how the situation is looking. When he enters the room, he sees the protagonist standing in the middle, hands on his hips, surrounded by the bodies of the defeated monsters. Minato walks right past him like it's nothing, telling Ryujin to handle the boring stuff, the actual evacuation. The boy spins around sweating bullets and tries to warn him that going solo is way too risky. But when he turns back, the main character is already long gone. Ryujin just groans about how fast the guy is. He's feeling a bit useless now, admitting to himself that he's basically just become dead weight at this point, staring at the remains of the beasts. Ryujin realizes Minato wiped out dozens of them in mere seconds and starts wondering who he actually is. Minato is already clearing rooms at high speed, refining his strategy. He concludes that in tight spaces, he needs low-level magic and surgical precision to keep the students out of the crossfire. Then our hero runs into another creature and launches an attack. He sprints to the next room, arriving just in the nick of time to save more students from a nasty end. After taking out another beast and seeing the kids crying with relief, Minato realizes that walking them out is too slow and gets a brilliant idea. Elsewhere, Ryujin is busy taking down a monster while trying to keep the evacuating students from losing their minds. Suddenly, a terrified student points toward the ceiling and asks what on earth is happening. Ryujin looks up and sees 3 students just floating there, held up by green magical energy. He realizes it could only be the main character's doing, and once again he's left wondering who Minato really is. Outside, our hero watches through the window with a faint, satisfied smile. He's sure Ryujin can handle things, but then he senses something is off. A pink-haired girl is backed into a corner, frozen in terror as massive, magical beasts close in on her. She's in total shock, her voice trembling as she lowers her head and screams for help. Then a blinding light suddenly floods the entire area. It's Minato taking out those monsters like it's easy work. The girl scrambles up her head, absolutely spinning from the shock. She remembers seeing that same energy destroy another creature not too long ago. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how he handles the next wave. Stick with me, you're about to see if our main character's secret identity finally holds up. Minato casually confirms it was him, explaining without a second thought that he really was part of that training session. She bows deeply, thanking him for saving her life for the second time in a row. He gives a polite smile, telling her it was nothing special, which makes her even more embarrassed. Right then, a very sweaty Rain comes running up, huffing and asking who needs help next. Our hero leaves the girl with him, promising she'll be safe while he charges ahead. But as he leaves, she calls him by name, leaving Rai completely and utterly confused. He sprints through the floor, knowing he can't wait for backup to handle this mess. Meanwhile, at the White House, the president announces a major disaster at the Magic Academy. Panicking leaders are shouting in the conference room. They're terrified of a repeat of the tragedy that happened 50 years ago. The president stays calm, confirming that the magical elites and the police are already mobilizing to contain the monsters. Now pay attention, here's the big catch. These mages are powerful, but they've never actually faced monsters this terrifying before. Becoming increasingly nervous, the president realizes that years of peace have softened their military, leaving only the police and magical elites capable of handling a real fight. He slams his fist down in pure frustration. Looking at his own hands, he realizes if history repeats itself, the city is doomed. Ichami won't survive. Inside a speeding official car, a boy and girl confirm the disaster is officially underway and emphasize that there is absolutely no room for mistakes. The girl is shaking, noting nothing this big has happened in half a century. Her partner reminds her that peace is never permanent, and he was expecting this. Inspector Shido explains that's why they're here. They're the specialists meant for hunting these beasts. Karen keeps her eyes on the road, determined to do whatever it takes. The police cruisers race toward the school with sirens blaring. News broadcasts are reporting live from the air, confirming the disaster at the Divine Magic Academy, where monsters have completely seized control and continue to spawn endlessly. Inside the building, students are huddling in the gym, while reporters explain the creatures appeared within the walls. Outside, teachers and seniors are blasting magic to hold the line and protect the younger kids. You and I are watching this resistance unfold live on their phones. The academy is totally blocked off, and locals realize the danger is right next door. Panic hits hard when citizens see monsters appearing in the middle of city streets too. From a high rooftop, a mysterious figure watches as the streets go completely empty. Flying monsters are swarming in every direction. While some punks laugh at the mess, the elderly watch the news in total shock. Our main character is tearing through the school, driven by pure urgency. He knows the second phase has started, so he's clearing rooms and saving everyone he finds. He notices the monsters are getting much stronger with every phase, and their numbers aren't dropping. Minato realizes the spawning won't stop until he takes down the boss leading them. He sprints past piles of monster corpses, knowing that the big boss won't actually reveal itself until the final phase. He stays cool under pressure, knowing he just needs to survive until the final phase. Focused. Using magic, he teleports 20 survivors to Rouge, though he warns that finding the others is proving tough because everyone is so scattered around. He heads back into the corridors, trying to map out his next move. Tadano is in the office using fire magic to fight back. Despite being totally exhausted, he's completely worn out and realizes they might not make it out of this. Trust me, you and I are about to see if this bully can survive the return of this terrifying demonic guardian. Stick with me, we're about to watch this frustrated blonde kid get his world completely rocked. Tadano slams the floor, shouting that the main character can win in one hit, while he just can't. The main character bluntly tells him it's because he's weak, leaving Tadano absolutely shocked to hear that voice. Looking up, he sees the Guardian wiped out by massive fire, leaving nothing behind but the creature's charred legs. The one who destroyed it was Minato, looking totally calm. After saving the bullies, he just walks away, making Tadano seethe with rage over being rescued by him. On pure impulse, he runs after his savior, screaming for him to stop. He catches up and asks why the main character even helped when he should hate them. Turning slightly, Minato coldly says he helped because he could. It's nothing more than that. Tadano starts shaking head low, barely holding it together, as he asks if that's really the only reason. Suddenly, the bully snaps and yells for him to stop pretending, accusing Minato of being a magicless loser. Now pay attention, he finally asks how our hero got so strong. After a pause, the main character says Kusanagi Minato died in an accident and was reborn with a new soul. Hearing that, Tadano screams that if death makes you stronger, then he should be the superior one, not some useless guy. The main character cuts him off, steps closer, and asks if the redhead really thinks he's strong. He explains that a fake sense of superiority fools you, easily making you think you're strong while he stares the bully down with authority. He finishes by saying this false pride is just a lie. His cold gaze makes it obvious that Tadano isn't even considering a fight right now. He walks right past the redhead, ignoring him as the shocked bully collapses in a heap. He admits he was running away, realizing his strength hasn't improved at all since his middle school days. Tadano remembers bullying others with his friends, confessing he only did it to vent his own pathetic frustrations. Now he was saved by Minato, the guy who used to be weak. He can't accept it even as his confused friends arrive, knowing they're alive because of the person they humiliated. They stand behind Tadano, who can't even stand. You and I saw that coming, right? While the bully cries, our hero is out there cleaning house. Suddenly, a demonic guardian barges into the classroom where Minato was headed. The main character reacts instantly, holding out his hand and readying a magic attack. He fires, but the guardian dodges, causing the magic seal on his hand to expand and activate. A massive stream of flames erupts and completely consumes the monster. Later, Minato puts his hands in his pockets, looking over the damage he caused. He looks out at the street and realizes the boss must be close. Turning to the two students, he tells them to stay calm because they're safe now. Meanwhile, Ryujan grinds his teeth in anger while cursing the main character. He's busy fighting monsters, complaining that Minato left him to handle everything while creatures move toward the girls. Seeing the danger, Ryujan rushes in and takes out the enemies directly. He yells that he'll protect everyone and tells them to follow him. The students are relieved, but Ryujan realizes there are too many monsters for him to handle. Suddenly, the main character appears and asks if he needs help. Ryujan jumps in surprise, complaining about the scare and telling him to cut it out. Without a word, the main character says they aren't leaving until every invader is dead. Ryujan runs up, arguing that no one can face this many enemies alone. Suddenly, a single devastating magic attack hits every monster, leaving only the main character standing there. The rescued students, including Ryujan, are absolutely stunned by what just happened. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. You and I are jumping right into the chaos as students flee for safety, while Minato effortlessly wipes out any monster in their path. Ryujin just watches from the sidelines, completely stunned by his companion's unreal levels of power. A few minutes later, the protagonist is the only one left, weighing if he should scout the building. Meanwhile, the teacher and the students are desperately holding the school's defenses. But things take a turn when Mizuha's strength fades and Ruka has to catch her before she hits the ground. Being the tough older sister, Ruka tells her straight up, "If you're done, fall back and don't get in the way." Mizuha finds her second win, though insisting she can still fight while Ruka watches with confidence in her sister. She jumps back into the fray with her magic ready just as Rion returns with the students he rescued. The teacher hears the news and says it's great. Rujan herds everyone inside, but Ruka can't help noticing that the whole group is reaching their absolute breaking point. Mizuha immediately asks about the hero, and Rujan calmly assures her that Mito is perfectly fine and still has plenty of energy. A massive wave of relief hits her. Rujin excitedly adds that with the protagonist's help, they might actually survive this. Mizuha readies her magic, but then boom, the entire ground starts shaking, catching everyone completely off guard. Terrified, the teacher screams for everyone to run and find cover immediately. Now watch this. Enemies start pouring in by the hundreds, and Rujin yells at the top of his lungs that they need to run right now. The students don't need to be told twice, sprinting away from the magic beasts hot on their heels. Ruka, her sister, and Rujan join the retreat, trying to put as much distance as possible between them. Suddenly, Mizuha feels a chill. A beast lunges, but it's shredded into pieces before it can even touch her. The cavalry has arrived. The Central Department Police just rolled up to the scene. Inspector Shido wastes no time announcing the extermination has begun as his officers organize themselves and launch a perfectly coordinated counterattack. Seeing the badges, the students finally breathe a sigh of relief. They actually manage to hold out. Shido shouts to the survivors that the police have the situation under control now. He orders an evacuation, but Mizuha steps forward and makes it clear that they're going to stay and fight too. The inspector tries to tell the civilians to leave, but she cuts him off with zero hesitation. "We're not just ordinary people, we're mages," her sister adds. Shido hesitates for a moment, accepts their help, and tells them to attack from the rear. The students shout a unanimous yes, ready to move out and support the police. Holding the line, the inspector quietly admits that their manpower isn't enough, and the help is crucial. It's a bit embarrassing for the force that they need help, but meanwhile, Sergeant Karen is busy inside the school, treating the wounded and keeping them calm. We both see the protagonist's relief as the patrol cars finally arrive on the scene. He figures he can leave the rest to the pros, noting it makes sense the police beat the army to the scene. Since this is a national emergency, things are moving fast. Still, he can't help but worry about how unstable the world is becoming these days. He doesn't slow down, though. Using magic to boost his speed, he heads back inside to find more students. High above, a news reporter warns that while the police are here, the monster count is still skyrocketing. She tells the viewers that everyone is waiting for the magical aristocracy to show up. Kids who used to treat magic like a game are now glued to their screens, hoping for a miracle. Even the elderly are watching at home, grumbling that their tax dollars better buy a solution to this. The reporter practically begs the magical aristocracy to step in and save the day as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the noble Fukujin watches the chaos from his window and demands not to be disturbed even when his worried servant asks if he's absolutely sure. Jin coldly says the police can handle this tiny disaster and there's no reason for the aristocracy to get involved. The man just gets up and walks away, leaving his butler asking where his master plans on sleeping. Jin just ignores him and walks out, leaving the butler to bow and wish him a good night. Back at the front, Shalu is exhausted but refuses to budge, even as the situation spirals out of control. He turns to a colleague and asks if they can finally clear the monster entry zone. The answer is a hard no, there are too many. Trust me, you and I are in for one hell of a fight. Alright, let's jump into the moment things get a little crazy. The inspector realized the backup was just logistics, and the mages were nowhere to be found. Totally frustrated, Shulu shouted out, wondering why there wasn't any help when they needed it most. But still, the students kept fighting, taking down every monster that dared to get in their way. Trapped and surrounded, he realized book smarts weren't enough, and wondered if they could survive the actual boss. The hordes charged in to destroy everything until a beam of pure magic blasted down from the sky. Right then, a massive presence filled the air, signaling that the demon boss had finally arrived. The pressure was instant. Sholu was drenched in sweat and pure terror, wondering if this monster was the real deal. Ruka felt that shift in power too. This was a rare enemy that only the top mages could handle. Mizuhi, on the other hand, was literally shaking, realizing they needed high-level spells that no one there could actually cast. Now pay attention, because things are about to get really interesting. The leader fired multiple spells, making Mizuhi freeze in terror. Ruka jumped in at the last second, trying to block the blast with her water magic. It helped a little, but not enough. She quickly used her own body to shield her sister. The blast hit Ruka hard. She screamed in pain as she went down. Mizuhi looked over and saw her sister badly hurt. Panic set in as Ruka gasped for her to run. Paralyzed, Mizuhi fell to her knees while the monsters closed in and the other students fled in terror. She held her sister tight, screaming for help, even as the injuries and chaos surrounded them both. Ryujin and the officers refused to back down, fighting through their wounds to hold the line. Then the leader raised his hand, charging a level 5 technique. Everyone knew this was the end. Tearing up, Mizuhi hugged her sister and cried out for the main character. The leader's power grew until it felt almost impossible to breathe. The girl kept screaming for her mentor, while the heartless leader just stood there laughing at all the suffering. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the air, catching the demon leader completely off guard. But then the monster's attack was stopped by an even stronger spell. The main character appeared and apologized for the delay, calmly telling the leader he'd kept him waiting. Mizui just kept crying beside her sister. Minato knelt down and checked Ruka, noting she'd passed out, though her condition was still pretty bad. Looking at all the wounded students, the main character felt his anger starting to boil over. He stood up and faced the leader while Mizuhi called out to him one more time. You and I can see hope returning to her eyes when he firmly promises that he will win this. A healing spell activated, and Mizuhi saw her sister's wounds literally vanish. Realizing she was healed too, she watched as the other fallen students slowly began to stand up. Karen watched everything from afar, totally stunned. She recognized the advanced magic and wondered who could cast something so powerful. She found Shido on the ground, who smiled weakly and admitted he was completely out of mana, though he was still somehow holding on through the pain. Before he could finish, Karen cried out in despair. The inspector stood up, still confused by the situation. Looking at her, he used his last bit of strength to say they had to protect the people. Shido shouted they had to fight or everyone would surely die. The sergeant started crying, shaking as she said it was all pointless now. She pointed to the fallen officers as proof they had already lost. Shido felt the fear too as Karen confirmed they were surrounded with 0 reinforcements coming. Nearby, a reporter was losing it, declaring that the police were finished. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next, because those mocking boys are finally silent. All right, you and I are about to see things get real, as the reporter screams that everyone is doomed. Even the retirees watching at home are suddenly gripped by fear. The reporter says nobody can fight back, except for Minato, and that is when the surviving officers finally notice him. Karen shouts in shock, seeing the student approach the monsters, while Shidao desperately yells at him to get away. But Minato just ignores the warnings and keeps walking toward his opponent. Out of patience, the main character tells the demon leader he has gone too far. The monster releases a crushing aura chanting that he is going to kill. Hearing that voice, the students are frozen. Even the remaining police officers look away, unable to react. Suddenly, a massive explosion hits the boss as Minato orders him to shut up. The beast roars back, summoning magic seals that spread dark energy in every single direction across the battlefield. Minato stays totally cool, making sure not to show any tension so he does not scare the others. Now watch this. A massive wave of energy surges toward him and Inspector Shido thinks he is finished. However, magical barriers appear around the students and absorb the entire attack. Minato created these protections himself, using his own strength to defend everyone. Non-stop attacks slam into the demonic boss, making the creature scream in agony as it gets hit repeatedly. Shido is completely stunned, wondering who this mysterious student could possibly be. Meanwhile, the reporter broadcasts the fight in total shock. As she tries to move closer, a water strike destroys the camera. It is Mizushi, realizing her mentor was hiding his power. Minato does not slow down, keeping up the constant pressure on the enemy. Seeing this, the 3 students start shouting, feeling confident they will be saved. 3 magical beasts appear, but they are instantly taken out by precise magic strikes. Shidao and Sergeant Karen are back, putting in work to help our hero. Minato gives a small smile, thinking the modern police are doing their jobs well. Then he goes back to focusing all his attention on the boss. Suddenly the monster screams as its energy grows in a terrifying way. Wait for it. Level 6 magic appears and Shido starts shouting. That magic is restricted to nobility, and there is no way to face it head-on. The boss activates the level 6 skill called Dragon Flame. The students are terrified while the reporter and cameraman cling to each other. Karen shields a little girl, while Shido tries to protect everyone even knowing his efforts might be useless. The power of that magic is way too much for any normal protection. The students stumble back crying as Karen prays for their survival. Shido thinks that even with Minato's strength, there is no obvious way out. The only one who still believes in the main character without doubt is Mizuha. She looks at her mentor without fear, knowing that he will win this. Minato stares back coldly, realizing the demon is slow and his magic was reckless. He realizes level 2 magic is not enough, but he does not want to draw too much attention. Right after, 4 magic seals appear as he uses a 4th level technique, Serpent Storm. Mizuha is blown away, but she always believed in her mentor's power. A water creature forms, leaving Shido wondering if that was actually magical synthesis. Dragon Flame and Serpent Storm collide head-on, starting a brutal epic clash. The water serpent surges forward and grabs its opponent's neck. The boss screams to kill while Minato just lets out a heavy sigh. The serpent swallows the demon whole, leaving you and I completely speechless. Alright, you and I are about to see this fight wrap up in a pretty unexpected way. All that is left is the sign of its defeat. Minato reflects that he actually expected a longer fight. Turns out the boss was a total pushover. Everything returns to normal as the threat just vanishes into thin air. Watch this. With the boss down, the main character realizes the catastrophe is finally over. In that exact moment, he decides it is finally time to just kick back and relax. The students are standing there in total shock, wondering if they are actually safe, and if Minato really crushed that demon boss. But soon everyone is up and cheering for the big victory. Even the reporter and her assistant share a hug now that they finally feel safe. Karen tells the student it is okay and the disaster is over. Meanwhile, Shido just glares at Kusanagi, refusing to look away while muttering that this whole thing is absolutely impossible. He cannot believe a mere student stopped the disaster alone, especially since even noble mages with level 6 magic could not take down that demon boss. The inspector collapses right there because his legs finally gave out from all that magical overload. Minato walks over to his student, saying everything is handled. She just smiles and says she always believed in him. It is so emotional. Mizuha thanks her mentor, while the main character welcomes Yuka back. Suddenly, they are both caught off guard. A crowd of students swarms him with praise, but our main character just gets annoyed and tells them to back off. He immediately regrets standing out, just like in his past life. He is really hoping his new life isn't about to become one big annoying headache. Watching her mentor, the girl can clearly see just how irritated he is getting from all that unwanted attention. The Academy officially announces the end of the disaster. They confirm there were no deaths, but they refuse to give any details about the student who soloed the demon boss. Classmates show the news to Kusanagi. He is annoyed by the savior fame, even though they say it is totally normal. Our hero gets promoted to Class S, and his old classmates feel super awkward realizing they cannot just talk to him like before. Even so, some girls ask about the secret to his strength, imagining he must have the blood of some legendary noble mage. Now you and I need to watch this Class S student. He notices Kusanagi's discomfort and doubts someone that powerful could even exist. Minato's classmates jump to his defense, confirming he really did take out that boss solo. But the guy stays suspicious, thinking it is all way too fishy. Kusanagi takes the chance to slip away, feeling a massive wave of relief as he leaves. Soon his student finds him and asks with a playful smile if he is struggling. He just says he is trying to avoid getting teased. She says that is normal. After all, he is the powerful savior who saved the school. Minato remembers his student also got promoted to Class S. She confirms it, saying it was all thanks to her hard work during the big disaster. So the guy asks if she is actually happy about the promotion. Mizuha says yes, but mostly because a certain someone is in that class now too. Kusanagi asks if Ruka is doing better. His student confirms it, mentioning the two of them have been talking way more than they used to. Minato thinks that is great, and Yuka is happy as well. Then she thanks the main character for everything, showing how truly grateful she is. Out of nowhere, Kusanagi gives her a light head pat. She blushes hard and asks him why he did that. The main character explains he does not want her constantly thanking him. Mizuha just smiles. Elsewhere, a man finishes a global video call. They know getting help for the next disaster will be tough, since every country is busy with their own emergency plans. They start discussing the news about the student who supposedly defeated that high-level demon boss. They point out how weird the case is, especially since the police got crushed. They eventually conclude it must have been some kind of misunderstanding. They hope other nations doubt it too. Then they order the noble mages back to start prepping for the next big disaster. Up on the school rooftop, the friends finally meet up. The four of them just stand there in silence for a bit. Ruka says she has something important she wants to ask Kusanagi. Looking determined, the girl asks him to take her on as his disciple. After a quiet moment, Ruka starts talking about the disaster. Kusanagi actually managed to beat the demon captain and put a stop to everything. She is shocked to learn he used level 4 magic, which is stronger than most living mages can handle. Despite how crazy it sounds, Ruka believes Yuka because she knows her sister never lies. She says her sister has always been a well-behaved kid and never liked the idea of disobeying anyone. She also thinks someone with that much strength and talent should not just end up as some average, talentless mage. Then he tells her to stand up, promising she is going to get much stronger. Ruka feels proud, noticing her sister has really matured. You and I just saw it, Kusanagi is already stronger than his father. Alright, you and I are about to see one of the weirdest training requests ever. If things stay like this, she will be a high-class mage, but she needs more help to improve. Right now, she is apologizing for insulting her friend and for underestimating his true power. The request sounds totally selfish, but you have to swallow your pride to get what you want. Luckily, the boy is easygoing and agrees to take her on as his brand new... Alright, you and I are diving back into this story where the girl is stunned. Kusanagi forgave her after those horrible things she did. He's already moved past her mistakes and accepted the apology, so there's really nothing more to discuss. Seeing that her tough friend actually agrees and thinks the training idea is perfectly fine. The girl is totally stunned by his kindness, finally realizing he's a true mystery that she just can't seem to figure out yet. Later that afternoon, we're in a meeting room at the police division. Officers Shido and Sanada from the Beast Unit are there to show their gratitude, knowing that without our hero stepping in, every single civilian would have been completely wiped out. But our boy tells them that's enough thanking and gets straight to the point about what they want. Even with the investigation wrapped up, something is still bugging these detectives about the whole situation. Now pay attention, because here's where the police start asking the really tough questions. They've heard rumors that he became an entirely different person after surviving that brutal traffic accident. His personality shifted completely, and his magic grew insanely strong enough to take down a high-ranking demon captain. This really starts to annoy the girl, and she demands to know where they're actually going with this. So the detective rephrases everything and asks if he knows a mysterious figure called the Black Mage. This mage has been saving people under the cover of night while wearing a dark cloak. I know what you're thinking. The police are actually being smart for once, noticing that the mage and our hero are the exact same size and age. There just isn't anyone else his age with that kind of massive magical power. They remind him that using magic in the city without a permit is a serious crime. If he's a student, the school's definitely going to take serious action. Since this case has gotten so much publicity lately, the police are forced to act, meaning expulsion isn't the only problem, but a confession could help reduce his sentence. Finally, the detective puts it all out there and asks if he really is the Black Mage. Without a hint of fear, he calmly tells them that they've got the wrong person. The blonde guy believes him, and trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are jumping right back into the life of our favorite undercover student. As he leaves the meeting, he realizes our main character is definitely not just some average kid. His detective friend is now certain Kusanagi is the mage because of several suspicious similarities. She can't reveal his real identity, though, because the main character is actually a good person. On one side, the blonde guy wants the secret, while the girl works hard to hide it. Next, the teacher introduces the talented students joining her S-class today. The whole class is buzzing with curiosity about the boy who single-handedly defeated that massive demonic villain. At the same time, the girls want to know more about the mysterious blue-haired newcomer too. Losing her patience, the teacher orders everyone to sit down so they can finally start class. This is exhausting for our main character who wants to stay low-key, but a pretty redhead wants his attention. Check 21. Once again, our hero ends up on the rooftop for a very private conversation. While she expected to train alone, the girl notices Minato is already in the same place. Looking closer, she sees him with a cute girl, who sweetly asks if he still remembers her. He remembers her instantly. She is the one he saved during the scary calamity incident. He also recalls helping her with magic when monsters attacked her during their previous combat classes. The pieces click for Kusanagi as she thanks him for saving her life twice. He just did his job. With bright red cheeks, she tells the main character he is actually really cool. Watching from afar, the other girl is dying to hear what they are whispering about. Suddenly, the redhead confesses she likes him and wants to go on a real date. You and I both saw that coming. The main character is stunned because he never expected a confession like this, but she promises to do her absolute best for him. She begs him to be her boyfriend, but he coldly shuts her down and kills the mood. Alright, you and I are starting off with our hero explaining he's way too busy to date anyone right now. So the girl thanks him for his honesty and promises to finally move on from her crush. But as she walks away, she's silently crying where no one can see. Suddenly, Uka gets caught eavesdropping and they tell her to stop hiding behind that wall. Her mana control is so messy it's literally leaking across the rooftop, making her super easy to spot. She tries to explain it was just a coincidence, and she definitely wasn't listening in on purpose. Still, she asks why he'd reject such a pretty girl. It turns out he's not planning on dating anyone at all, which leaves her totally confused. Even though they're in the same grade, he feels like their actual ages are worlds apart. Weirdly, she feels relieved hearing that even if she doesn't know why, even walking through the halls and the stairs, she can't stop thinking about his lack of dating plans. The main character tells her to quit daydreaming and focus on her mana control practice instead. Her new goal: give it everything she's got and get strong enough for him to finally notice her. When night falls, the monster count is still high, even though the major disaster is officially over. Now watch closely. A girl is running from an evil sorcerer when our masked hero suddenly appears in the chaos to save the day again. With one lightning-fast move, he grabs the guy's arm and delivers a brutal punch to the gut. Then he triggers a yellow ritual that sends the guy flying into the distance. This thug was clearly an amateur with absolutely zero real fighting skills. The girl thanks him, clearly already knowing about the legendary reputation of the great Black Mage. With no time for fans, he vanishes into thin air. While escaping, he really wonders why his secret identity is becoming so incredibly famous among the students and common people. Back at school, everyone is gossiping about this mysterious night mage. It seems like he's the #1 topic for everyone. That's mostly because this guy has become a viral sensation across the internet lately. But our tech-illiterate hero doesn't even know what that is, assuming the internet is some kind of fishing net. It's actually pretty wild seeing someone his age who doesn't even know how to use a smartphone. The girl explains that you can find anything online and that information spreads like a lightning strike. His classmates start showing him how to use a smartphone. Totally hyped, he finally announces that he's managed to open an app. He's officially on the network and thinks it's a breeze. Meanwhile, Ruka remembers their training promise and wants to start their lessons. He agrees to start after class as a thank you for the phone lesson they just gave him. I know. His friend has a bad feeling about this too. A little time passes and the big guy is already face down on the ground after a short session. They didn't even get a warm-up before they were fighting for their lives. Still, the guy is stubborn as hell and somehow manages to keep on fighting. That's exactly the spirit our hero wants to see, so he orders them all to attack at once. With that, the trio charges in using their magic together. Now the scene shifts over to Tokyo Tower. Some men in suits are using binoculars to watch from a distance. One of them is shaking, asking what's actually happening. From far away, they see a massive swarm of monsters and beasts closing in on the area. After training, the trio looks completely exhausted and ready to quit. But then, they suddenly launch a surprise counterattack with every bit of their remaining strength. That plan is useless, since our hero is way too strong and easily counters all of them. Taking advantage of that small opening, the girl appears from behind trying to land a back attack. Using his insane speed, he dodges the strike easily. On top of that, he taps her forehead with magic to end the fight. With everyone defeated, it's time for a well-earned break. Our hero looks pretty confident that he's kept his secret identity safe from them, but the girl suspects he's hiding something big. She figures it's probably better for everyone if she doesn't dig any deeper into his secrets. Meanwhile, he thinks the three of them are just way too easy to fool and kind of dumb. Heading home, the friends agree the training was great and that the big guy is actually pretty tough. But he's absolutely starving and needs to get home immediately to cook something for everyone. This catches our hero off guard since he didn't expect a giant guy like that to be a good cook. At his place, a bunch of kids swarm him. The cook walks out with plates in hand and apologizes for the little brats being so loud. That's no problem for our hero, who just floats everyone away using his levitation magic. His friend immediately scolds him for using magic inside the house, though. It's really unexpected to see this big guy taking such good care of the kids, regardless of his tough looks. He sees the kids and remembers the ruins. Trust me, we're just getting started. Alright, you and I are diving into a world where our main character thinks kids are just too precious. Check him out reading stories to these babies. Before the feast begins, everyone gives thanks for the meal. It turns out this guy doesn't have a father, and with his mom working late shifts, he handles all the housework while she's away. Our protagonist sees how buried his friend is with house chores and work. But honestly, he says he doesn't hate doing those things at all. He believes hard times build stronger people. That night, everyone piles into shared beds, even if it is a bit of a tight squeeze. Kusanagi doesn't mind the close quarters for once. Chart 23. Out of nowhere, the blonde guy asks Kusanagi to join their team. He wants him to lend his insane power to the police force. He really wants to keep a low profile, but the situation is just not letting him hide anymore. Plus, the pay is good and they will handle the academy paperwork for him personally. Now, pay attention his friends want in too, but they are just not ready for the heavy lifting quite yet. Being top of the class is one thing, but a real battle that is a different beast entirely. The only way they are joining the squad is if their power levels get anywhere close to our main character's level. As he leaves, he tells his buddies to head back to school. He makes it sound easy, just catch up to him if they can. That really lit a fire under them. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the Disaster Countermeasures Division at police headquarters. Hundreds of beasts are swarming Tokyo Tower, and they have got to move fast to keep civilians safe. He explains they have called in the student who saved everyone's skin a few days ago. When Kusanagi stands up, the crowd in the back starts whispering. The blonde guy makes sure everyone knows Minato is the one who stopped the academy disaster. His help is mandatory now. Two jealous detectives are already getting annoyed by how this kid carries himself in the room. But the mission is simple: wipe out the enemies. After the briefing, everyone heads out to their assigned posts. The man apologizes for the drama and Kusanagi just shrugs it off, politely. Sonata gets chewed out for being too scared to act. Luckily, our boy doesn't care and tells them not to worry. You feel that too, right? She thinks he is a genuinely good person. The enemy combat power is around 80 mages, and most of them are mid-rank. Mid-ranks use level 2 magic, while high ranks hit level 3. But our hero, he can cast level 4 magic and is the strongest. Their current plan is just one battle mage. That is barely even a strategy. Demonic soldiers and beasts are fine, but higher plane beings are a problem. Those monsters are actually smart and need a real plan. Plus, it looks like they are totally missing equipment. They are going in wearing light clothes, even though anti-beast armor used to be the standard back in the day. That gear is super rare now, and the hero remembers when there was plenty of it around. Magic has definitely declined, and he is determined to figure out what went wrong over the last 50 years. The police finally reach Tokyo Tower. All sorts of flying monsters are everywhere. Even though the calamity hasn't hit yet, our hero gets thoughtful watching it all unfold. The detectives realize there are way more monsters here than the earlier reports suggested. There is a demonic captain in the mix, so they might need private reinforcements soon. Too bad everyone else is already busy dealing with beasts in other areas. Their only choice is to fight. Kusanagi could probably just blow them all away with his power. That really ticks off the detectives. They think he is just some kid showing off for attention. He is watching the swarm and feels like something is wrong. Suddenly a red glow appears over the tower. And just like that, another brutal calamity is officially beginning. Police radios are going crazy, reporting similar situations popping up all across the country. As the warnings blare, people start panicking. The cops' number one job is saving lives. They are focusing all their energy on stopping the calamity inside the city center first. The catch is, they are totally on their own. Situation 24. This new disaster is huge. Trust me, you and I just saw that the beasts finally learned to trigger these disasters. Trust me, they're terrified. They think it's impossible to handle without backup and need to regroup, but these beasts just keep on coming and they won't stop attacking. Every monster is sprinting toward the city at full speed. If they aren't stopped, civilians are going to get crushed, so fighting back is the only choice left. Fear is spreading through the police force as they realize they're completely outmatched. But our hero is totally hyped and dives right in saying he's got this. He drops right into a swarm of monsters rushing him at insane speeds. Let's be real, this place is absolutely crawling with beasts looking for blood. Now watch this part carefully. The detectives think he's dead meat, but then he triggers a tier 3 spell, Wind Cutter. The pure destruction leaves the cops speechless, while the blonde guy gets totally pumped up. In just a few seconds, he effortlessly wipes out every monster in sight. But the chaos isn't over yet. More demons are already on the way. Battle mages start sniping from a distance, but luckily our hero tosses up a magic shield to block every single hit. Putting up that barrier was a genius move, and it should be enough to stop everything. For his counterattack, he just flicks a bit of magic and deletes his opponents. You and I both know how rare it is to see someone master different magical elements like this. The cops' new orders follow the kid and back him up. Even though they're scared, the guys refuse to run and decide to push forward. The squad starts blasting away, giving this war everything they've got. It's actually a surprise for our main character, who realizes they're much stronger than they look. Right in the middle of the chaos, the demon captain finally appears, looking absolutely terrifying. Supposedly only a legendary mage can stop this thing, and nobody here is that level. A blue aura starts closing in on the cops. The kid's plan is simple. Take the captain solo while his friends handle the grunts. The team is stunned by their co-workers' powerful magic, but they have to keep pushing until the boss arrives. 60 years ago, the first world calamity hit, and ever since then, these events keep popping up to wreck the world. If history repeats itself right now, this disaster is going to spread across the entire globe once again. Fortunately, he's here this time, and he's not about to let humanity get wiped off the map. A monster corners a detective and lunges for a quick kill, but our protagonist saves the day with a red spell. This feels exactly like a past memory. She thanks Kusanagi for the save, and he asks if she's doing okay. The boy is worried because if this keeps up, his secret identity might finally be caught out. Questions start racing through the girl's mind because she really wants to know how he became so powerful, but she's afraid her friend might hate her for being too nosy. While she's trying to stay focused, a massive explosion catches her off guard. While she was distracted, monsters close in, but our hero uses his magic to blow them away. This place is seriously dangerous, and she apologizes again. Seems she can't use combat magic and needs to stay glued to the hero's side. The kid acts way more like a mature adult than some random high school student. Elsewhere, the detectives are blasting magic when they're suddenly caught off guard. They can't stop shaking, but they don't even know why. Suddenly, a demon captain shows up radiating purple magic. This is a new variant of the species, and it looks even deadlier than the first one. Losing hope, the men wonder if even the most powerful mages could actually defeat this beast. Despite the chaos, our hero doesn't even flinch and stays perfectly calm. They warn him there's no way to win regardless of how strong he thinks he is. Still, he's totally confident in his power and says he's going to win. All at once, the cop notices the trembling has stopped. The girl is cheering for Kusanagi, hoping he can pull off a victory. Maybe he really has the power of a noble mage if he can take down this enhanced captain. As the one-on-one duel approaches, the blonde guy wants to see the true limits of our hero's strength. These soldiers have to go all out until the boss falls. The two fighters stare each other down before the duel begins. The The captain makes the first move, unleashing a massive, high-powered fire spell. But the hero doesn't even budge, realizing the explosion happened right behind him. This monster is insanely strong for just a level 1 beast. Seeing that the hero survived everyone is desperate to know who he actually is. No lie, but all they need to know is he's a normal student. Then he starts glowing with a blue, magical aura. The demon's only thought is crushing the strong human in front of him. Watching them fight, nobody can believe this thing is level 6 and supposedly impossible to beat. And that's where we leave it. Our hero is stuck unsure of his next move to keep his allies safe. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild magical showdown right now. The monsters are all syncing up their purple spells, and the girl frantically warns Kusanagi to run for his life. He doesn't flinch, using high-level water magic to douse the flames and hold back the entire onslaught. A barrier saves him just in time, and the hero's casual attitude is already driving the boss insane. Everyone watching is totally stunned, wondering who this mysterious kid really is. Only a noble mage can pull off a level 6 remote activation spell. But get this, the real shocker is that he's casting a second type of magic at the same time, completely ignoring the usual cooldown that normally limits every other mage in existence. One magic type is already impressive. But dual casting means the kid is stronger than any noble mage. The detective's gut feeling was right all along, and he finally realizes he's found the person he's been looking for. The one and only Minato. When the monster gets too close, the hero thinks the area is way too crowded, so he uses his level 1 skill to throw the captain far away. The fight takes off into the sky, away from any innocent bystanders. He does this so he can fight alone without anyone getting in the way, feeling happy that he can finally stop holding back his insane power. Dodging the massive beast's attacks looks like a total breeze for him. He takes a hit that sends him flying, but activates a spell to stay in the air, watching without fear, as the monster hurls even more fire magic at him. The beast hurls a giant fireball glowing with a dark purple aura right at him. This time the hit connects, and the monster watches as our protagonist tumbles toward the ground below. Now pay attention here, because you and I both know a little dirt won't stop this guy. The demon is losing its mind, confused how anyone could survive a strike that lethal. The main character decides it's time for some old-school brawling and charges in with a massive powered-up punch ready. He knows he's basically untouchable, and his strike is so heavy it sends the demon captain flying dozens of meters. The beast staggers back up, unable to believe a simple human punch could actually hurt him. Livid, the monster screams, demanding to know who this kid really is. Taking a stance, the kid says magic isn't his only trick, and prepares to show off some other secret skills, finally unleashing his signature technique. Shock 26. He stands there smiling, surrounded by a swirling vortex of colorful magical energy. The raw power is so overwhelming that even the police feel a strange, almost divine sense of a calm coming over them. High in the air, the hero focuses every drop of power into his next move. The demon talks big about human attacks being totally useless, so our guy rushes in to prove him dead wrong right before his eyes. He lands a direct, magic-infused hit right in the center of the monster's chest. The boy is absolutely dominating now, landing one solid blow after another on the captain. I know what you're thinking, and honestly, same who knew a mage could throw hands like a high-level professional athlete. The enemy is battered and bloody, completely losing his grip on the situation. Basic weapons don't work on these things, but everything changes when you add massive magic. By wrapping his body in aura, he's using a legendary style known as magical martial arts. The captain's pride is shattered as a mere human continues to trash him. He charges in a blind rage, but that's exactly what the hero wanted, landing a finishing blow that rips a hole straight through the beast's body. The other monsters watch their leader's lifeless body hit the floor. With the hero's help, the disaster's over, and the detectives can finally breathe. They still have to clean up the remaining stragglers left on the field. The boy decides the police can handle the remaining work, jokingly thinking to himself that it's been so long since he used this style that he's actually gotten a bit rusty. As he touches down, he finds the entire detective team waiting for him right there. They thank him for saving the day and taking down the boss of this calamity. Together, they give a formal salute to Mr. Kusanagi as these world-changing events begin happening all around the globe. Thanks to the mages and cops, they managed to prevent a total catastrophe from happening. So what do we take from all this? Sometimes the real heroes stay hidden. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a world where a mysterious hooded mage is the only thing keeping the city from falling into total panic. Back in class, the students are losing their minds, trying to figure out how that last calamity was stopped and what powers were used. All this gossip really bugs our main character because he hates standing out in a crowd. Even the teacher wants to discuss the recent chaos at Tokyo Tower during today's lesson. She mentions there's a student with some real-world experience while looking straight at Kusanagi. Just then, the police barge in and ask to enter the classroom. The detective explains she's got the principal's permission to handle some official business right here and now. They're back to borrow some serious protagonist energy to solve their problems. It really bugs the boy, though, since he knows this makes the police look totally unreliable. Plus, it's just super awkward having every single student in the room staring him down like that. He's got no choice but to see what he's getting dragged into, especially since they're offering a nice reward. Between the monsters and calamities, illegal mages and shady organizations are getting way too bold lately. The cops are short-handed and desperate for the main character's help since he's the strongest one around. The boy makes a mental note to just give them his phone number so they stop making these scenes in class. The detective explains they need him to clear out some nasty beasts that just popped up nearby. Trust me, you're going to want to see this next part. Instead of waiting for a car, our hero uses his magic to fly ahead at incredible speeds. He finds the city in total ruins, completely smashed and falling apart. Two kids are trapped in the wreckage where the older brother desperately promises to protect his little sibling. Chapter 27. Suddenly a monstrous four-legged beast shows up roaring in absolute fury. The boy knows they need to run right now or they're both going to get attacked. They trip over some rubble and hit the ground hard. The beast lunges forward, ready to turn them into its next meal. Thankfully, our hero arrives at just the right second to save the kids with a burst of power. He walks over to the boys and gives them some props for being brave. Then he kindly hands back the toy doll that had fallen during the chase. Rushing back to the fight, he tells them that Toy will protect them. Seeing him dash off with those powers really fires up the younger kid. It's clear that this urban battle is a much bigger mess than the one back at the academy. Unlike Shibuya, this area is full of obstacles and civilians. With so many people running around, he can't just go firing off magic bullets everywhere. It's easy to spot beast magic, but you can't detect normal humans who don't have any. Saving everyone means they have to patrol the entire area very carefully. The detective stays focused on hunting the beasts while the firefighters handle the evacuations. Suddenly, the man notices Kusanagi is there. He remembers him from the last big incident. The main character is acting as police backup and asks for a status report. They're stuck because they can't reach the other side. Hearing that the kid decides to check out that other side, it's totally cut off, and even worse, there are reports of illegal mages hiding out there. Now, you and I both know we don't need to worry about him, but the other officers are just baffled by this powerful young guy. They wonder if he just appeared out of nowhere to save everyone during all this chaos. He's using level 6 powers in the middle of the city to wipe out these monsters. Seeing demonic captains show up like this would have been impossible 50 years ago. These beasts are appearing in huge numbers, and they're getting more powerful every single day. They're becoming so dangerous that even our main character might have a hard time. If they don't start preparing for this stuff now, things could get really ugly really fast. He has plenty of plans, but isn't sure which to pick. While patrolling, he saves a bunch of people just as his detective friend catches up. The detectives thank Kusanagi once again for stepping in and keeping the damage to a minimum. But he stays humble, giving all the credit to the police and firefighters while calling his part simple support. That modesty makes the officer respect the boy even more. They actually apologize for how they acted before and admit they were just frustrated, keeping things chill. He explains that it's totally normal for students to act proud so they don't need to stress over it. That level of maturity really impresses the officers. The detective thanks him again, feeling a bit bad for relying so much on a high school student. They need a solid plan to fight back since the beasts from these calamities are evolving so quickly. And that's where we leave it. The two brothers show up to say thanks, and you and I can see how happy he is. Stick with me, you're about to see how a simple question starts an epic journey for our hero. Seeing the toy in the boy's hand, our main character confirms he's indeed that mage. The kid is thrilled, claiming he knew it all along. Back in the day, he was totally baffled that people made toys of him, thinking absolutely nobody would ever want to buy one. But his friend explains that these little items mean everything to children who need a hero to believe in. The local geek insists this legacy will last for 100 years and begs for permission to make it official. Now he finally gets it, even though he knows toys can't actually fight. A real great mage is what the world truly needs during a crisis like this. We shift over to the capital city where everyone is gossiping about the mysterious black mage and what he's really up to. Enter Koyakudo, the high and mighty president of the Mage Guild known as the Black Rebellion. To him, any unsanctioned mage is an enemy. He glares at his goons and asks if they agree, his voice dripping with pure menace. The mission is simple: unmask the hooded stranger, and he's perfectly fine with using extreme military force to get the job done. The guild manager steps in asking if they have permission to just take him out if he doesn't cooperate. Now watch this, these villains are so twisted they want to torture our hero before finishing him. It actually gets the manager excited. Chapter 28. The girls are dying to know Kusanagi's actual power level, and they start guessing just how high those numbers could possibly climb. His power level is revealed to be over 9 million. The trio is totally baffled because that amount of power is completely insane. After all, the great mage Minato is famous for only 1 million. 1 million is widely accepted as the absolute peak of magical potential, and everyone knows that's the gold standard. This makes our hero curious about his own limits, so he decides to search for some answers on the internet. After fumbling with his smartphone, he gets totally confused and gives up because modern tech is a nightmare. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing. You and I have all been there, getting an unexpected call. The voice apologizes and asks for his time, requesting the whole group on speakerphone immediately. Our hero is so tech-challenged, he can't find the button and needs a friend's hand. With monster attacks rising, the police are finally forming a new elite squad called the Special Magic Team, and they want Kusanagi to lead this elite unit as their new captain. That's a dream job for most mages, and even a legend like Minato would jump at the chance to take it. But surprisingly, our hero turns the offer down flat. Before moving on, Shido steps in to explain exactly what he is thinking. He points out that the current problems are piling up way too fast for the police to manage. Right now, they simply can't stop the monsters alone. Our hero realizes this is happening because the general level of mages is currently too low. All the big shot noble mages are stuck at a meeting overseas, leaving only a girl named Fuka to hold things down. Pausing for a moment, our protagonist suddenly realizes he has actually never met any of his friends' wealthy parents. To sweeten the deal, he recommends that his 3 academy friends should also be recruited into the specialized unit. He promises to deal with all the boring red tape so the boy can focus solely on leading the mages. He pleads for him to accept because he is the only one they trust. After hearing the heartfelt plea, our main character finally agrees to lead. This really pumps up the blonde guy who can't believe his bold proposal was actually taken seriously. His buddies are all in agreement. There is simply no reason to pass up an opportunity this good. He has some doubts, but figures training a few mages will help. Meanwhile, the papers report that public anger toward noble families is reaching a boiling point. Not only did they ditch their duties after the school disaster, but they are also being incredibly slow at handling the monster threat. Inside a fancy mansion, a butler enters with a stack of urgent documents sent over from the Metropolitan Police Department. The noble scoffs at this new magic unit, calling it a bunch of useless nonsense, though it might finally stop the public from complaining. With an arrogant sneer, he tells the butler to fetch his idiot son immediately. We head over to the meeting where they are forming this new special team. They mention that while applicants are few right now, success in the field will definitely bring in more talented mages later. It's pretty obvious that having a student as the leader is going to ruffle some feathers in the magical world. The detective then hands our protagonist a temporary mage badge to pin onto his uniform so he can be identified. It is just for ID since they aren't officially licensed yet. Now, the special student treatment ends and the weight of command falls on our captain. He takes the badge thinking about how long it's been since he last led a squad. Standing before his team, he introduces himself as the captain and makes a vow that you and I won't want to miss. Alright, stick with me. You and I are about to see our hero promise to make these kids stronger than literal noble mages. Everyone is shocked because those nobles are basically gods compared to regular people. Since no one believes him, he decides it is finally time to prove them wrong. He asks for a power measuring device, and soon Ruka and Ryuji are first up in the testing room. Let's see what these two can actually do. They blast their energy straight into the machine, which starts soaking up all that power. Previously, their levels were 10,000 and 8,000, but things have changed. The girl is absolutely floored when she sees her score rocket all the way up to 30,000 on the screen. The big guy hits 28,000. That is a massive 20,000 point jump in raw power. The police are stunned because these are high-rank mage numbers, but our hero tells them to hold their breath as he calls his friend up to measure her power next. Chapter 29. Now pay attention because the girl is terrified the power gap between her and her sister will be way too huge. Despite all her training, she feels like she is just an ordinary girl. She is scared of the result, but she refuses to run away ever again. She pours every ounce of energy out, refusing to lie to herself anymore. The detectives are watching closely, dying to see if she can actually pull off a miracle here. The display shows a mind-blowing 26,000. Her original stats were only supposed to be around 2,000. Our protagonist says anyone can boost their magic like that, but she argues that it takes actual natural talent. He tells her all you really need is hard work and a spirit that never quits. He gives her a head pat, telling her he is proud of her hard work. Her sister is beaming at the sight, and the other two get some praise too. You would expect this from Ruka, since high levels are totally normal for the prestigious Mizuha family. Still, our hero keeps the compliments coming. He tells his buddy he always knew she was special, and that her bravery means she has no reason to ever feel afraid again. She gets a little huffy, telling him she is definitely not a little kid anymore. Everyone freezes for a second, but they are relieved she is not actually angry. It turns out this is the first time she has ever had her head patted. Not even her own father did that. Suddenly, a new guy appears claiming he has been looking for them and wants to offer a welcome. You saw that coming, right? Well, the detective is shocked this noble mage suddenly changed his mind. This is Mr. Shula, a noble mage from the Fuka family. They had no choice but to ask a noble for approval, forcing them to enlist everyone. This family totally ignored the school disaster before preferring to stay quiet while everyone else was in serious danger. Our chubby friend cannot understand why students are running the country's magical leadership team. The cop explains this student actually stopped the whole calamity, and his insane achievements made him the captain of the unit. The mage cannot wrap his head around a regular commoner stopping a disaster without any noble blood. He steps on our hero's foot, asking how a kid dares to outrank him. The rest of the crew is furious and starts yelling at the guy. The noble mocks commoners for being too emotional before eyeing the two Mizuha sisters. He notes that at least those two do not look like trash. With a disgusting smirk, he declares he is taking over as captain regardless of what the official orders say. He suggests that whoever takes down the calamity boss wins the right to lead. He just walks off, completely ignoring everyone. Our hero stays cool, though, knowing there is no point in arguing with a loudmouth like that. The trio vows they will never let that guy become captain. Our main character wonders why they are all so much angrier than he is. Now they are at the police training grounds. Once again, our guy is trying to figure out exactly what power levels he is dealing with. To start, he wants to explain exactly why magic is so vital to them all. Mana is the energy required to make magic, but it has plenty of other uses too. He asks the big guy to attack him with everything he has got. Charging in, he yells not to complain later. The punch lands, but it is stopped by a magic barrier. If your mana is high enough, you can use it naturally. And if your capacity is truly insane, you can keep it up all day and night. As his friend keeps swinging, he explains this is what you call automatic magic. Expanding your power capacity is the #1 goal for any mage, and they all need to remember that. Besides training, they are going to need gear and special equipment to fight monsters. Looking at Shadow. It seems like that stuff is hard to find, so he asks for some time. He figures those items are gone now, so he will just make them himself. Searching through his drawers, he finds a cheap ring to use, but it is not enough. The boy realizes he is going to have to go shopping when Ruka calls him. After a quiet moment, she tells him only he can be captain and cheers him on. Laughing, he decides to ask her something while they are talking. He asks her to go shopping for accessories. You and I are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are about to watch our guy suggest a solo outing, leaving the girl feeling a bit bashful. He is totally hyped for their shopping trip and wants to know her thoughts on the whole plan. She is 30. Eventually, she admits she does not mind tagging along. Since it might literally save his life, they agree to meet tomorrow at the station. With enough cash to buy rings for everyone, he starts wondering if it is time to craft some anti-monster gear. He plans to use magic on cheap jewelry, hoping his crazy idea actually works out in the end. Dinner is ready, and she goes to call her sister, but she finds her frantically picking out clothes at this late hour instead of coming to eat. The room is a total disaster zone with clothes everywhere, so she just reminds her that the food is getting cold. It is the first time she has seen her sister. This worked up, making her wonder if a date is happening. Fast forward to the next morning, and our protagonist is already at the station waiting for his classmate to arrive. Now pay attention here because she is trying to hide her magic, so Minato won't notice her spying on them. Suddenly Ruka arrives looking absolutely stunning. She is turning heads all over the street. When she reaches him, she asks if she kept him waiting too long. Every guy passing by is instantly jealous, assuming our lucky main character is actually her boyfriend. This also bugs Uka, who refuses to believe they are on a date. He just explains he is there for rings. He says he needs several as gifts, which totally freaks her out since polygamy is definitely not a thing in Japan. She suggests that if he is buying in bulk, they should head to a spot known for better deals. They hit up several shops, but even with a spy watching, finding the perfect ring in this market is really tough. Even when they spot a cool design, something about the vibe just feels a little bit off to him. Things get awkward when their faces get too close, and the shopkeeper offers a discount for his quote-unquote girlfriend. That totally flusters our hero, but Ruka immediately jumps in to clarify she is definitely not his girlfriend. The saleswoman is stunned by the blunt answer and awkwardly tells them to just keep browsing the store. Taking a breather, the main character admits he is completely drained from walking through these massive crowds of people. It is so hard to find the right item that he considers lowering his standards just to get it over with. Out of nowhere, the witch gets vulnerable, saying she is just not great at showing affection or acting sweet to others. She admits she cannot even get along with her own sister and feels like she has caused nothing but trouble. You and I can see she is hurting when she tells him to go with her sister instead and then leaves. But he stops her, pointing out how hard she worked researching these shops beforehand and picking the best ones just to help him out today. And he wants her to know she really is a huge help. Ruka is touched and turns shy while the hidden spy realizes she has never seen her sister act this way. Dropping her disguise, she realizes she is being silly and decides it is finally time to head back home. After searching for what feels like forever, they find the right rings, and he buys 5 of each for his team. The witch knows their friends are going to be thrilled to receive such a thoughtful and carefully chosen gift. These will serve as vital equipment for the squad, and Ruka finally understands why this shopping trip mattered so much to him. Our protagonist gives her a huge thank you, letting her know just how useful she was today. Like a true gentleman, he decides to pay her back by presenting her with a beautiful ring and sliding it onto her finger. It is the very first special piece of gear he crafted, and he asks her to take good care of it. Getting the gift makes her super embarrassed, and she scurries off before he can explain the anti-monster tech inside. He decides to leave that for another time instead. Walking home, she stares at her ring, holding it close to her heart while feeling all those butterfly emotions. Chapter 31. Now it is time to gear up the team. The detectives are stunned by the magical aura coming off these rings. They realize that once infused with magic, they become powerful tools. This item grants the user level 1 wind magic, which completely blows the blonde guy's mind since he did it alone. He is stunned since blacksmiths capable of making this stuff are basically non-existent in modern times. He admits the boy just never stops finding new ways to impress everyone around him. And trust me, you and I know Yuka is onto them, noticing her sister's new ring and smelling a secret date. Let's dive back in as she gets restless about what happened after she left. The team needs a better way to get around because normal cars are just way too slow. Shido remembers how they always showed up late to battle scenes using those clunky police vehicles. With this new equipment, anyone can use wind magic to cut down travel distance. Just remember, it is a basic spell and should never be used to attack anyone, okay? Air magic is all about flight and speed, and you have to start with a jump. Her friend is the first one who manages to float without any trouble and gets some well-earned praise. It is nothing for her since she has been training manipulation magic forever. Still, the guilt of spying on her friends weighs heavy on her heart. Right then, our main character asks if she knows Ichimi Minato, and she says he is the person she admires most. His power level was around 1 million, and he could use long-range spells, but he died fighting the demon god. After that tragedy, mages were scarce, so the nobles in the Miso family stepped up to bring things back. Back then, there were 0 records about the remaining magic, so they had to rebuild all the research from scratch. The death rate among mages was terrifyingly high, but there should still be some ancient books stored away somewhere. The protagonist remembers hiding several books in different places, just getting ready for the future. One big problem is that modern magic knowledge is shallow and full of mistakes. He wonders if the low magic level is just a coincidence, or if someone is pulling the strings. The girl wants to know if her friend is doing okay and promises she is there to listen anytime. He tells her that her kindness is more than enough, and that she is helping out. There is still that black mage problem, but considering the chance of getting her involved, he decides not to bring it up. Now watch this, if she finds out our hero is the legendary Minato, she might pass out cold. She still feels unreliable, but that will change if she gets stronger. Her plan: just keep giving it her all. A week passes by, and the unit captain is training everyone. The detective casts a level 2 holy spell, while Shido unleashes a powerful level 3 lightning spell. The big guy casts a level 4 earth spell, raining rocks down, while the sisters use level 4 water manipulation. Our hero is happy because everyone's level went up and Sonata is already mastering those offensive strikes too. Besides that, what intrigues the boy most is the sisters' compatibility, which is honestly quite impressive. Their powers are strong enough to open huge holes in the ground, which gets the blue-haired girl excited. Everyone is doing great, but they should not get cocky just because their level went up. So he asks his friend to use a level 4 spell against him. The girl gets ready and throws a powerful attack, gathering all that bright blue aura energy. As a counter, the protagonist casts a level 1 wood spell. With his massive power, that simple spell easily cancels out his friend's level 4 attack. It turns out level raises your magic limit, but it does not always mean your spells will be stronger. Attributes matter a lot, and water is way weaker than earth in this world. You and I both know they should not get stuck on levels. They need to understand magical power and teamwork to become stronger together. That fires up the group, and they feel motivated to train. Then the chubby guy shows up complaining that it is too complicated for a commoner. Since the calamity has not arrived, he is bored of training without monsters to fight. He thinks this is all way too complex and would rather let the police handle the mess. Nobody on the team likes the noble, and everyone gets annoyed the moment he shows up. Feeling powerful, he wants the calamity to hurry up and start. His wish is granted when the sky turns red and the calamity finally appears right before them. The team that defeats the final boss first will earn the right to lead the squad. They are totally focused, and they are never going to lose to someone like that arrogant noble. Taking off at full speed, the proud man waves goodbye at the failures. Leading the team, the protagonist tells everyone to put on their headphones. This is the first real fight since the squad was formed, and they cannot afford to let their guard down. While floating through the city, the chubby guy does not care about traffic. He jokes that everyone is so slow it makes him sleepy. Even with all that extra weight, the chubby guy's team is actually really fast. That is because they are skilled with wind magic, and the hero's friends will have a hard time catching up. The hero knows he could beat him alone, but that would ruin the point of a squad. Floating around, he keeps laughing at opponents. Annoyed Yuka cannot hear what they are saying, but she is sure it is just total nonsense. Finally, the slick-haired guy's team reaches the site and decides to wipe out all the monsters. You and I are going to watch them crush these demons because that is where we leave it for now. Let's jump right in. Just as that couple is about to get crushed, our hero drops a massive magic barrier. He basically asks his team if they've lost their minds. Suddenly, his purple aura flares up, pinning that chubby noble right where he stands. The rest of the squad and his buddies rush in to make sure everyone is still safe. Yuka is absolutely livid, screaming at them for putting civilians in danger. Meanwhile, the noble is freaking out because he's stuck blaming the brat for his sudden paralysis. He claims it's just because ordinary people were blocking the path of his great noble magic. He tells his henchmen to handle the crowd while he goes for the boss. Taking out Fuka seems simple, but he's worried it'll look like they're just running away. This might actually be the exact opening our main character was looking for. He steps up to guard the civilians while his team handles the monsters. Even for a high-tier mage, protecting everyone solo is a huge ask. He announces he's the captain of the special anti-monster squad. The blonde guy admits that questioning him was a pretty dumb move. They can't just hide behind Minato forever. It's time for them to handle these monsters themselves. The command is simple: push forward and win for the team. The whole squad unleashes their unique skills to clear a path. Totally fired up, they launch precision strikes at the enemies, closing in on their position. The little girl blasts level 3 water magic at any demon that gets close. She used to be terrified, but now she's taking down demon soldiers like a pro. She's genuinely proud of how much she has leveled up. Magic energy is spiking everywhere, and tons of civilians are still trapped. Our protagonist realizes this rescue mission is going to be much harder than the last. Anyone else would have cracked under the pressure, but he is the legendary Great Mage. While the noble and his goons keep spamming attacks, our trio of heroes forms a line and starts shredding through the enemy ranks. Now pay attention, things get real when a literal demon suddenly appears before them. This is the big moment the noble wanted to prove his level 4 magic against a boss. His men warn him that a basic level 4 spell won't work, but he's too arrogant. He figures if anyone can beat a demon, it's a noble like him. As a noble mage, he expects victory as his birthright, and finally activates his signature magic. The demon counters by flooding the area with intense fire. In seconds, the noble's magic is completely swallowed up by the beast's power. Terrified and losing fast, they decide to turn tail and run. Sadly, the civilians are left behind by that coward who doesn't value their lives. But right on cue, our hero arrives to save the day once again. He casts a heavy-duty spell to tank the hit. His friends jump in, raising their hands to back him up with support magic. Face down in the dirt, the chubby noble is just relieved he survived. You and I both know this guy's the worst. Uka is fuming, but he just blames the citizens for being too slow. Fed up, she delivers a thunderous slap right across his face. It hits so hard it actually sends the guy flying through the air. Then she absolutely roasts him, calling him a noble who doesn't have a shred of honor. Sprawled on the ground, the noble is in total shock that they actually dared to hit him. They leave the noble in the dust and focus on sniping the remaining enemies from a safe distance. Our main character sees it all and loves the comeback, but we've still got civilians to rescue and a boss monster running wild in the city. The massive beast stomps through the city, leaking pure evil energy. The goons are ready to bail because they know they're outmatched. Even the noble admits these enemies are pretty tough, even for a great mage. He plans to let the rival team tire out the beast so he can steal the kill at the end. His buddies think it's genius and start prepping for the plan. Finally, the monster closes the distance on our trio of hero mages. Even with the enemy's insane magic, they have to win. The big guy charges in first, leading with his high power magic skills. Then the detectives and the girls start rain down spells on the beast all at once. Their combined attacks create a massive explosion of mist, but the monster is still standing and ready for round 2. They're going to need level 4 spells or a massive boost in power to end this. Now the beast counterattacks, floating in the air as it unleashes dark energy. The group barely dodges those lethal strikes. This energy is way stronger than before, literally twice as powerful as the girl's magic. The gap is just too big to win like this. Hearing their struggle through the headset, our hero decides it's time for some coaching. His advice: they need to sync up and truly combine their powers. The real key lies between the two sisters. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are jumping right into the action as shots fly toward the girl and she barely dodges. Kusanagi's words actually meant something. Just like her sister mentioned, Minato has always been the one leading this whole team. The plan is simple: wipe out the minions while keeping an eye on the demon's magic. Their friends hit from one side, they hit from the other, and she'll signal the dodge. That massive beast starts charging multiple spells at once. She begins the countdown to start their play. She screams the warning right when everyone needs to move. The main character realizes she's a natural leader, with a talent for reading people even if she's still doubting herself. Feeling the pressure, she tries to remember her friend's advice. She's not sure this crazy method will work, but common sense is long gone. In a huge gamble, she asks for everyone's power. That noble has no clue what's happening. United together, the whole team focuses on the plan. They've got no other choice but to trust her. They'll have to push themselves hard. The monster launches 5 heavy spells in a row, ending with a massive fire blast right at them. Now watch this. The nobles think it's over, but the group walks right out of the flames alive. With their next moves ready, the support activates sacred healing magic on everyone. From the sidelines, the hero realizes that healing plan was actually pretty genius. Now the sisters step up to cast together. They're weak alone, but their combined magic is the key. Together they unleash a level 6 spell called Water Torrent. The monster gets absolutely drenched, leaving the detectives in total shock that they pulled off level 6 magic. But the monster is still standing. This fight isn't over yet. The chubby guy sees his opening for a finisher, but suddenly his strength just gives out. The hero arrives just in time with a massive spell. The beast is finally done for. The clouds finally part as the enemy falls, ending the calamity. Completely out of mana, the girls collapse. They're so drained they can't even stand up. Even so, they're happy they saved the day together. Track 34. The main character praises everyone for stopping the incident. Their first mission was a massive success. He can see they're all growing, but Yuka's progress is truly unreal. Her leadership was perfect, and that combined spell was brilliant. She admits she didn't even know the technique's name until just now. The main character is totally confused how she did it. Apparently, it was just the main character's advice mixed with her own gut feeling. Trust me, she is more amazing than we thought. She did great, and that sisterly harmony really made the difference. On the news, the general explains this team was built to handle the demon threat. A reporter asks if it's true the leader is just some student who stopped the calamity. Shido takes the mic and confirms it. The squad leader is indeed a student. The press is stunned. A minor is in charge, but his power supposedly rivals any nobles. During the academy's disaster, the nobles were nowhere to be found, but our hero stepped in and saved everyone. That's why Shido is sure he's the savior this new era needs. Watching from afar, the main character hates the attention. Being famous is way too risky. But it's true, some clans were completely useless during the crisis. The general tries to play nice, saying the nobles are still important to society. Suddenly, the chubby guy barges in and demands that everyone bow down. He claims he should be the leader, since a noble like him is the only one worthy of the role. So what do you and I make of this? He already lost the challenge, but is pretending he forgot. He claims that as a noble, his word is law and commoners must follow his lead. Right then, a reporter steps up to ask the supposed new leader a very pointed question. She exposes that he abandoned citizens during the crisis and even dragged them into danger. He is caught in a lie, but tries to deny everything anyway. But other journalists have the receipts showing videos and images of his true cowardice. A massive uproar begins because these noble families are failing their duty to protect the people. The noble snaps and blames the victims for his own failures. The detective calls him out for being corrupt. He argues the city needs real heroes who protect people without being totally selfish. They don't need arrogant nobles who refuse to protect their own citizens. The trio runs away while making empty threats about revenge. Watching the news on TV, our hero feels genuinely proud of the friend who stood up for him. Over on their tablet, the girls see the internet is exploding with videos from the calamity. The noble mages are getting roasted online, especially that chubby guy who acted so poorly. Trust me, the internet is a scary place. He realizes how fast things spread, especially when the girl sees their faces were caught on camera for the whole world. Hiding his identity is almost impossible now. 1 week later, in the meeting room, he wonders what the point of all this is. He is totally freaked out by the massive crowd gathered there after that intense press conference. Volunteer numbers are through the roof because of the television drama. He promises to reward the main character and mentions his deep desire to train the next generation of mages. Our hero never wanted the spotlight, but his friend shows up to hype him up, claiming the entire world is now obsessed with such a handsome and powerful young guy. Unfortunately, all this unwanted attention is really starting to get under his skin. Late at night, someone is tied to a chair in a dark, creepy room. The kidnapper wants answers. The psycho demands every detail about the Black Mage, but the poor guy only knows he is a young man capable of casting absolutely insane high-level spells. The lunatic lunges forward. Sobbing, the man recalls that the police are now running shifts at the Magic Academy to uncover the identity of the hidden mage. There is a persistent rumor that the mage is actually a student, but the hostage has nothing else to say and begs to be released since he is useless now. You and I just saw a monster. He kills the man and hates the blood on his suit. All right, you and I see him yelling while wiping his clothes in total madness. He is totally hyped to see a student's fear and tells the Black Mage to wait for his arrival in Chapter 35. Hood on, he finally enters Shinjuku. Floating above, he spots people walking around and filming the area. He notices a monster on the ground and sees clear signs the Black Mage was there. Our hero figured the hype around him had already died down. But nope, they are still searching for him. Patrols have definitely increased and seem to be handling monsters and disasters way more efficiently. It seems they don't even need the Black Mage's help anymore. Now pay attention here, he spots thugs shaking down a guy for 10 million yen when he only borrowed 200,000. That is one brutal beating. They say the interest rates are sky high for a reason. Suddenly our hero jumps in to save the man who was almost killed, dropping a magic barrier that blocks every single hit effortlessly. The thugs think he is playing hero, but blink and you miss it, they are instantly beaten and left too weak to move. With so many problems lately, the cops do not have time for illegal mages. Rumors say crime syndicates are hunting the Black Mage, making our hero curious to find out more about this mysterious organization. The thugs do not know much, but they do have a name, Black Rebellion. Let's pause. We are learning this rebellion is an underground mage organization that avoids the public eye while being involved in all kinds of crazy illegal crimes lately. Basically, they are just like the Yakuza or the Mafia. They have deep ties in politics and a branch right here in Kabukicho that these two losers were hoping to get into. Naturally, after they talk, he just goes ahead and beats them up one more time. Besides, Sanada did mention that illegal mage activity has been skyrocketing in the city lately. Minato Kusanagi Academy can handle the monsters, but the Black Mage is taking over the Underworld. He decides it is time to wipe out that Kabukicho branch. That whole area is packed with clubs and people drinking the night away. As he walks around, promoters keep bugging him with discounts for fancy rooms and shady red lighthouses. Alright, you and I are jumping into a city that's honestly a bit much for our hero. Magic is everywhere, and spotting the bad guys is nearly impossible. He figures his best bet is to just start grabbing people. Step one corner, the guy's doing sketchy business in the shadows. Down a dark alley, some thugs are peddling weird items, and they are definitely not happy to see him. And just like that, he drops them without even breaking a sweat. One terrified thug spills the beans on a secret meeting spot just to save his own skin. He leaves the guy on the floor and heads toward a bar called Western, hoping the intel is legit. Inside, it's wall-to-wall tough guys. The bartender looks up and asks what he's drinking. A girl slides some cash across the bar, asking about the Black Rebellion's hideout. But the guys just laugh, telling her she's asking the wrong questions and should be worried about something else. The real question is what happens to her now as the thugs start closing in. Turns out they knew someone was poking around their business, but they didn't expect a visitor this pretty. It's clear she got some bad info and walked straight into a trap. The order is to take her alive and magic starts flying. Somehow she's holding her own, dodging every blast thrown her way. She's looking for an exit, but a fire spell catches her off guard, slamming her hard onto the floor. The thugs tower over her, taunting her and making some really gross threats about what's next. With all hope fading, she whispers an apology to the people she failed to help. Now here's where it gets good. Just as things turn ugly, our main character strolls in like he owns the place. He casually asks if the Underworld gang is around. A thug sneaks up behind him talking big about how much trouble he's stumbled into. The guy swings while talking trash, but our hero just drops him with one single punch. He flies across the room, hits the wall, and goes completely lights out. Everyone else in the bar just freezes in shock. The girl is totally stunned. Normal people don't hit that hard, and she has no clue how he managed it. Was it magic? She didn't see a spell. Meanwhile, Kusanagi has just relieved his info led him to these low-level mage punks at the bar. There are plenty of weaklings here. Kusanagi calls them pathetic for ganging up on one single woman. The thugs are rattled, but they think their numbers will save them. One idiot shouts for everyone to rush him all at once. They launch a wave of fire, but our boy just weaves through the flames. She doesn't think he can win this indoors. Big spells would blow the roof off, so she screams at him to get out of there. Before they reach him, his patience snaps. He blurs past their attacks and closes the distance in a heartbeat. Okay, I know what you're thinking, and yeah, it's total annihilation. In seconds, he knocks every single one of them out. The woman is speechless. He moves so fast she couldn't even track what just happened. She's still looking for magical signs. One broken thug actually starts crying, begging to know who this monster is. Kusanagi introduces himself as the Black Mage, the guy coming to end their gang. He finishes the last one and walks over. She's rattled by how easily he won, wondering if he's some kind of elite or legendary sorcerer. Up close, she realizes he's just a high schooler with intense eyes. He gets a bit concerned and asks if she is all right. She says she's fine, so he heads over to the bartender, cowering behind the bar counter. Kusanagi wants answers, but the guy is terrified the gang will kill him if he speaks. So our boy smashes the table to pieces. He tells the guy this is officially his very last chance. Totally terrified, the man talks. He says their main base is in Tokyo, with branches scattered all across the city. Apparently, the boss of the Kabukicho branch is someone you never want to meet. The leader is a powerful mage who supposedly pulls the strings of the entire country from the shadows. Kusanagi asks for the location, but the guy has no clue. Low-level workers like him never get the real secrets. It's a bit of a dead end, so Kusanagi decides to keep hunting illegal mages for better clues. Just as he's leaving, the woman stops him and thanks him for saving her life. She says she's lucky he showed up. He tells